That's how it's gonna be, a little test tube.
It's most likely to be a highly infectious virus.
Guy steps out of Times Square station, smashes it on the sidewalk.
Welcome to the Zero Indent Review, a show dedicated to handcrafted studies of genre fiction. I'm author DC McNeil, and this week Patrick is on leave, so I've recruited two Wasteland Wanderers in from patrol. First, we have my longtime co-conspirator, also cursed to discuss this franchise forever, Danielle from Level Story.
Howdy, hello, thanks for having me once again to talk about this series that I love and also have conflicted feelings about, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, I feel like we're in an abusive relationship with The Last of Us, Danielle. Is kind of how I've started to think about it over the years.
Yeah. What has happened to my life? Like, just Last of Us all the time. Who knew?
For the last, over a decade, it's just become just you and me talking about The Last of Us. That's what we're cursed to do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Please no.
Don't think
not
about
a decade.
It. Don't think about it. and we're joined, of course, by frequent Patreon guests here to make their debut on the main show. It's Alex, the member of Zero Indent most likely to outrun a horde of zombies, so long as the zombies set an even pace. I think that's just probably...
Yeah, so long as they're running 9-minute miles, I think I can manage it.
Yeah.
Any quicker and I might be in trouble.
If you could ask them to please set a reasonable pace and sustain it, that would be preferable. So that's just true. Yeah, so something to think about. And we're joined once again by Darth, of course, a resident of Jackson with just enough personality. He's probably going to die in the battle to come.
That hurts my soul. I want to think that I'd be a survivor out there. But also, I would also choose a best friend who's a really slow runner. So
that's smart, yeah.
Well, that's the trick. You just have to be faster than the next person, right?
No, I'm just gonna perpetually have a really long stick on me, so that if the zombies, I can trip the person next to me. You know what I'm saying? I don't even have to be quicker. I just have to be meaner.
Yeah, true.
Like Mario Kart, you're just throwing out banana peels behind you while you're running.
Here's the problem with Mario Kart, Darth, is every time I fucking play Mario Kart, okay, and it's been 2 minutes so I can finally cuss, every time I play fucking Mario Kart, it's either with Patrick or with Alex, and so it's just not a competition. It's like playing Smash Bros. It's like, I may as well put the controller down and go to the kitchen. I'm not even I'm getting dunked on so thoroughly that they're lapping me. You know what I'm saying? That's my experience with Mario Kart. So,
yep.
Fuck Mario Kart. I can think what I'm saying?
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. That's not a... Anyway, welcome back to our continued study of the post-apocalypse. Brought to you by the Zero Indent Patreon subscribers who help make the shows and articles that shape Zero Indent. Some very quick housekeeping up top. Patrick's on leave, but I thought I'd sort of run through some of this very quickly anyway. Look, we live in precarious times. It's tough for everybody. I've made some decisions behind the scenes, and as a result, we've dropped our entry-level Patreon tier, the producer tier, down to $5 a month. This gives you access to the Zero Indent review bonus episodes, as well as 11 years of archive bonus content from our previous company. By making this more accessible, I feel it better reflects our values and makes our paid content more accessible, which is what we want to do. And for free Patreon subscribers, we've added a Zero Indent review community chat where you can send us questions, thoughts, or feedback directly. That is accessible to everyone. All you have to do is join as a free Patreon member. And if you can spare $5 a month to help support the show, we appreciate that. Otherwise, join us on Patreon for free. Even if you just give us a follow, it helps more people find what we do. So today we are talking about The Last of Us Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. This is the adaptation of the Last of Us Part 2 video game. Obviously, I've recruited Danielle for her sort of... she's got the same deep sort of knowledge of The Last of Us franchise. Darth is kind of coming in as a newcomer, net new. Alex, I'm curious, have you played the second game, or are you coming into this blind?
I mean, if we're going to talk about confessions, I've played maybe 2 hours of the first game.
Okay.
And none of the rest of it.
Okay.
So, I'm coming at this from
off.
pure TV media experience.
So, a brief reminder, and Danielle, maybe you can kind of summarize if you have it off the top, but what would you say was the critical reception of Part 2 when it first came out? And I don't mean the bad take, reactionary right-wing stuff, but like generally like the thoughtful part of games criticism that we come from. Like, do you have a good sense of like what the general vibe was of part 2 when it first came out, and like if that's changed at all?
My memory of it is that it was received well for the most part. Like, people were frustrated and they talked about that, but it was getting, high scores, across the board. And I don't think I heard anybody talking about it critically that didn't at least have something good to say about it. I hope I'm not misremembering that, but I feel like that was what the vibe was at the time.
Yeah, I think it was a very narrow strain of the kinds of media criticism that we make that were maybe a bit more critical. Having rewatched our coverage of it, we tried to be as even-handed as possible, but I think by the time that we got through our full discussion of that game, we all kind of landed in the same place, which is it is this big, bloody, technically impressive spectacle that doesn't really have a lot to say about it, anything that's in it. I'll give you what I think is the best summary from Rob Zacny back at Waypoint before that collapsed, and they moved on to Remap. This is from Rob's article, The Last of Us Part 2 is a grim and bloody spectacle, but a poor sequel, where Rob says, quote, "Anger and grief are understandable motivations at the start of a revenge quest, but The Last of Us 2 never follows through on the work of exploring what sustains them past reason and scruple. That's why it falls short of its ambitions of being a work of tragedy, despite roundly excellent performances by the cast. The characters' motivations are easy enough to understand, but they're also increasingly less compelling as the game drags on and loses mount. It's little wonder that some of the game's best moments come during a major subplot that gives us a respite from the vendettas and characters that drive most of the game's action. The things that serve as the catalyst for a story aren't always interesting reasons for its continuation, but that doesn't stop The Last of Us 2 from revisiting the same traumas every time it needs to justify the next bloodbath, and hoping that the screams and gurgles of the dying will give it meaning." End quote. And I think that's probably where we landed. I think that game is pretty torturous by the end of it, and that, we're going to do our best not to spoil where the story goes, because if you haven't played the game, this season of television breaks roughly halfway through with some adaptational choices that bleed a few different bits and pieces forward, or add stuff as pretext. But the season ends roughly halfway through the game, where the big change in the game happens. Which we'll get to next episode of this discussion. So I guess high level, going around the horn, we'll start with you, Darth, because you seem to be the most positive on this. These 2 episodes, how do they find you? Are you really enjoying, revisiting the show for this discussion? Like, yeah, what's your high level on these two episodes?
First, I'll back up and also answer that same question, because 2 of the things that I heard before I watched this, which I was just kind of flummoxed by, was one that many fans were hating Ellie in this season, whereas they, for the most part, loved her last season. And before watching this, I just could not understand how they could so change a character that this many people would be talking about hating the character. And then, secondly, Dina, a lot of people were talking about how they hated the casting or they hated the hair. It was something so stupid that I was like, I don't understand why you're making such a big deal about this, that I've seen multiple posts about that. So I remember hearing that going into it, and yeah.
That's crazy. I feel like, and Danielle, backing up, I feel like Dina is one of the highlights of this show. Like, it's pitch perfect.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I there were literally people that were like, her ponytail was like the wrong length or the wrong color. There was some really stupid stuff. Granted, it was like Reddit, and so like if you're in the right spot, then they're just there to complain,
Okay.
But I wasn't sure, especially with y'all who are coming from the video game. Like, I don't know how. For me, if I was looking at Halo or whatever, it's got to be really darn close, accurate for me to say this show is a good depiction of the game. So if they fundamentally changed even some minor physical characteristics, I'd be like, okay, you got to have a good reason for doing that. Grain of salt there. Okay, so all that said, I kind of had a negative perception of the show going into it because I had been hearing some quote unquote bad things about it, even though the overall reception was like, yeah, it was good, but it was nowhere near what the first season was. So my expectations were tempered going into it, even though I was still I was vibing all the way through. I very much enjoyed it. Aside from like all the times I was probably crying because there was also a lot of sad stuff, a lot of deep emotional connection moments, and I'm like, how's this happening? And you know, this zombie mushroom head show, and you've got this deep connection happening at the same time. So yeah, I've very, very much enjoyed it. I did not have this problem in season 1, which you, David, would have expected me to have, looking at the realism of the zombies and how the plague spreads and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And with this season, that really hit me multiple times. Like things that they introduced specifically related to like the zombies, how they function, that kind of thing. It kept taking me out of the world, and I kind of don't think that y'all would have had that reaction, but I'm curious to see when we get there.
I mean, there's a lot of hay that's been made about the changes they've made to the zombies from the games, and the extent to which I think that continues to work and not work is pretty much a direct continuation from season 1. All the problems that were there are still there, and I think only exacerbated by some of the additions that the second game makes them grapple with. There's an enemy type in the game that is introduced in the first of these episodes that kind of doesn't really make sense outside of the context of this is a different type of enemy that you have to deal with in a video game, which we'll get to.
That did feel very video gamey at the time, I will say. It was like, oh, here's this big, scary, random monster we've never seen before.
And to be fair, it feels silly in live action. I don't know how else to describe it. Alex, what about you? High level, coming to these two apps, what's the vibe?
Yeah, well, having never played the game, obviously, it was, well, I say never played, I played a few hours, but of the first game. Felt like one moment I was watching, like, a small-town drama, right? And then, like, therapy sessions, all that stuff, and then they sort of whiplash you into, like, mega warfare and torture room type stuff, which I suppose was intentional. Just curious, is this the same order that the story plays out in the game as well?
Yeah.
Or have they, like...
More or less. We'll talk about the changes, but, like,
that's just...
fundamentally...
Yeah, it's just interesting, because, like, it sort of opens up, and I'm like, all of this torture, pain, cruelty stuff is happening, and then it's like, but I don't really have any real reason to believe the antagonists yet, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of, like, yeah, stuck in this mental loop of, like, I'm sure this is really meaningful, but at the same time, I'm like, but why? But maybe they'll get to that later in the season. I don't know. Yeah, it just feels like it's, I don't want to say hollow, but like not well earned. But other than that, really enjoyed it. Like Daz said, like some tears were shed. There was really good emotional beats. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting at the moment.
Okay. It's so funny the way that you just described that, of being like, I don't really... What is, like, it's hollow kind of, but not really. That is the purest distillation of the second game, like, because it does a thing.
Not well earned.
Yeah, there's a trick it does, and if the trick doesn't work for you, the entire thing won't work for you. Yeah, Danielle, what about you coming back to this, revisiting this text after, 5 years, this adaptation? How does it find you?
It's strange because I almost don't want to watch our original discussion about the game, because I feel like I wouldn't like some of the things I said. I don't know. But I feel I replayed the second game last year, and it hit me so much harder on a second playthrough than that first time playing it. Like, I cried so many times while playing it, and just on a complete, if you distill it down to just a story about Abby and Ellie, like, it was beautiful. I absolutely loved it, and almost love it as much as the original game now, even though the original still is my favorite and nothing will really surpass that if they release, say, another game someday. But I really loved that second game. As for the first season of the show, I thought it was fine. It's not my favorite thing in the world. I think it's a good adaptation, but the games will always be the thing that I come back to. So I was a bit hesitant coming to season 2 just because I wasn't the biggest fan of season 1. And on top of it, I had just, a friend of mine had played through part 2. I had walked her through it. And so she had just finished it when we started watching the show. So, like, I was fresh off experiencing that game. And upon watching this season, I hated it. I really disliked it. And I got to see episode 3, and I was like, I don't need to continue. Like, I'm not enjoying it, so why should I continue? And I knew your invitation was going to come to talk about the show. And I was like, I think I'm going to tell him no.
That's so funny.
But I will say, upon rewatching the first 2 episodes today, I feel a little different. And I think partially because I'm not hot off the presses with part 2. I've had some distance from it and can appreciate the show a little more for what it is. I still don't think I'm going to like the direction it is, that it's going, because again, I've only watched to episode 3, so I've not finished the season. I do know how it ends, and I already take issue with it, but we'll get there when we get there, and I actually watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely feel more optimistic about it now that I've rewatched those first 2 episodes, for sure.
Interesting. I should explain something if this is your first, because I realize that these types of episodes get a lot more sort of random algorithmic views and stuff like that. If this is your first time, I should explain something that this show does as a format, which is very often something we do when we construct a unit, and this is becoming increasingly true, is we write a check that we eventually have to cash, and we may not want to cash that check. Like, me and Darth watched all of Sherlock, a show that I despise. And a big part of that exercise was writing a check and going, I want to critically engage with this thing that I maybe won't enjoy. And that's part of what this is, right? I said to Danielle, I went, look, here's a check I want to write. We may not enjoy the process of cashing that check, but I think it's going to produce valuable criticism. And I really think these 2 episodes are technically really impressive, right? Like, I think that the acting, in particular, Dina, is an absolute standout for me. Like, really captures that character from the game and does a lot of extra work with it, in particular with her relationship with Joel. But, like, I just fundamentally think that the show can't get away from the problems that part 2 has for me. And to your point, I replayed part 2 when they did I don't want to call it a remaster because that feels way too charitable, but the PS5 up-res.
Yeah, they say it's a remaster. I don't know what to call it. It feels too new still to be a remaster.
Yeah. Last of Us Part 2, but 60 frames. That's all it is.
I was going to say loading times are gone as well.
Yes.
Like, when you played on PS4, loading times were crazy long. I forgot about that until I watched, like, a speed run of the game. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot about the loads. That's crazy that those are gone now.
It took
but other than
so
that,
long to load.
Yes.
And your PS4 will be trying to take off as well. Like, it was a fucking helicopter,
Yeah.
That shit, I think that nearly melted my TV cabinet. Like, it truly was, it was pushing the limits of that box.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think I fundamentally I probably land somewhere between you, Danielle, and Darth, where I like it a lot. Part of my enjoyment actually has been my initial watch through was with my friend Lucy, and then the rewatch I've been doing by myself. And part of what's been really interesting is being able to experience someone else going through this story for the first time, and being able to watch the things that she's reacting to and the things that she's engaging with has really helped me calibrate my perspective a little bit more, as opposed to someone who is fundamentally The Last of Us pilled and is cursed to talk about this fucking franchise forever. You know what I mean? So that's also been interesting, watching someone else, you know, kind of have these beats be new and fresh. And yeah, the end of episode 2, you could have heard a pin drop in the apartment for like neither of us moved for a good 10 minutes. Like, it was just, yeah, really, I think the closest feeling we've had watching a TV show, Darth, was the end of the episode of Daredevil Born Again when Hector gets killed and you hear the frog song.
It's not even remotely comparable to the end of this episode 2. I understand what you mean.
You understand the sentiment of what I'm trying to communicate.
But I cannot fathom watching the end of episode 2 with another human being in the room. Like,
it's pretty brutal. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. All right, without further ado, let's get stuck in. We are first talking about Last of Us Season 2, Episode 1, Future Days, directed and written by Craig Mazin. In a lot of ways, the most Craig Mazin-coded episode of television I've ever watched in my entire life. I say that as both a value judgment and as a pejorative. So it's, boy howdy, is it one of these. Danielle, when you are ready, could we please hear the summary?
Oh, yes, I am ready. Okay, so Abby and her friends grapple with Joel's actions in Salt Lake City and decide to join a crew in Seattle with hopes of eventually hunting Joel down. 5 years after the events at the hospital, we rejoin Ellie, living in Jackson. Meanwhile, Joel goes to therapy and is unable to be vulnerable and admit how he hurt Ellie. Ellie goes on patrol with Dina, a girl she fancies, where the pair systematically ignore orders. As they kill infected in an abandoned supermarket, Ellie is hunted by an intelligent zombie. Ellie and Dina attend the New Year's Eve dance later that night, and as they kiss, they are interrupted by David, who calls them a homophobic slur. Joel intervenes, drawing the rift between him and Ellie even wider. Elsewhere, Abby and her friends approach Jackson.
Very nice. The first thing we should talk about is the addition to the pretext of this story, which is the scene of Abby and her friends burying or sort of standing over the graves of those that have been killed. And it's a bit on the nose, but they're in the same park where the giraffes are from the first half of the story. And I don't know about you, Danielle, but I've been mentally struggling to come to terms with this generally in this season of television. Caitlin Dever's voice is like 1-to-1 with Laura Bailey's as Abby. Like, it feels like it's CG. Like, it freaks me out, man. She sounds exactly like Abby.
Yeah, she does, actually.
It's so
very
crazy.
darn close.
Like, every time she opens her mouth, I almost have an aneurysm. I'm like, how did they do this? Like, did they grow this woman in a lab? Like, how did...
So for, like, the uninitiated, are you talking about the voice actor from the game compared to the show?
Compared to the actor for Abby. So the voice actor in the game is Laura Bailey, and then Caitlin Dever is the actor who plays Abby.
You stupid old man. You don't get to rush this. You stupid old man. You don't get to rush this.
And they sound identical, but Danielle, there is one key characteristic that is different about Abby in the show, isn't there?
There is. Abby is quite muscular in the game,
She's shredded, dude. She's jacked as fuck in the game, dude.
It's funny seeing people's reactions to seeing Abby, because people just can't help themselves. Like, they have to point it out, which, like, to be fair, it's kind of like people, like, you're going to notice it. I don't notice it anymore, to be honest. Like, I'm so used to Abby as a character, but upon my friend playing it, she, like, couldn't stop saying, like, oh my god, she's ripped. And I was like, yes, okay, moving on.
Well, she truly is. Like, it's hard to explain. If you Google image a picture of Abby from the game, like, her key characteristic is physically ripped, and
yes,
it does a thing, which is it's a characteristic of Abby's, which is she has spent her entire adult life since her father has died honing herself into a weapon that she can point at Joel, right? That is, like, the thing she's been doing.
Yes.
And we still get that communicated through the show. Like, you know, we still get that intentionality without the physical characteristic of her being completely jacked. And yeah, it's so funny. People cannot help themselves but comment on this. And I get it, because it also, I wouldn't say detracts, but I'm curious to see, with where the story goes, if they can sustain some of the parallelism that the game does with, you know, Abby and Joel, and the ways that they mirror each other in a lot of ways. And her physical characteristic is some of that, right? Joel in the first game, he punches, Abby punches. You know, like, there's a lot of stuff they do to, and I don't want to spoil where it's going, but the characters they introduce around Abby is obviously playing on the Ellie and Joel dynamic. And so I'm curious if they are able to sustain that, or how they sustain it without that physical aspect, I guess.
I'm looking at pictures, and I'm wondering if they... I mean, I don't think there's another way to say it other than, like, they made her softer, more, you know, typically feminine. And I wonder if that's to make the audience empathize with her goal more, which is arguably, like, the bad, like, this is bad, you should not be doing this, but because you're more, you know, historically attractive, we might let you get away with it. Where if you come in looking like the Terminator, the audience is going to have a lot harder time empathizing with you, even when you have, you know, honest, realistic reasons for wanting to do this. And I was going to say that this piece of information makes the character of Abby make way more sense to me, because I kept thinking that something felt wrong about her, and now I'm realizing it's that she felt like she was so aggressive, like she was so competent, like she was portraying herself as hyper competent, but her physical characteristics were not hyper competent. And now I'm learning that they cast the wrong character, or cast the wrong actress. Like, she didn't have the physical training to pull off what she was supposed to be pulling off, which is, like, literally the best soldier. I know they say that, like, in the show, like,
That's
she's supposed to be, like, the best soldier or whatever.
I didn't... Oh, man. It was in my notes for probably more episode 2, but I basically at least thought these opening 2 episodes were pretty much like competence porn. So maybe we can get into that later, but yeah.
Okay. I've also realized, and this is just a complete, like, human error thing that I've done. I have been saying that we're talking about episodes 1 to 2. You guys watch 1 to 3, right?
I mean,
yeah.
I rewatched 1 and 2. I did not rewatch 3.
Well, so, because I've realized that I've been giving you all different information this whole time. We'll talk about episodes 1 to 2 today, and then we can talk about 3 through 7 next time. Because Alex asked me the other night, he was like, which episodes am I watching? Am I watching 1 to 3? And I was like, no, dude, 1 to 2. And I've just looked at the invite, and it clearly says 1 to 3. Anyway, we're talking about 1 to 2.
I just didn't read, apparently.
I did watch
No.
episode 3, though.
It's my fault. That's a complete factual error on my behalf. Anyway, yeah. But the corollary to that is also true, Darth, which is she looks exactly like Abby and she sounds exactly like her. Without...
Yeah, she has, I don't know how to describe it. There's a physical bearing that even a tiny person can carry themselves with, where they feel intimidating, and to an extent she had that. But if you're portraying yourself as a warrior, then someone can't be able to fit, their hand around your biceps. Like she wasn't built like this character in the game. And like now that I see these pictures, I'm like, this makes sense. This person hunting Joel, this should have been in the show. Like it would have made it so much better.
Yeah.
I mean, I think too, and why I think Abby like works so well as a character in the game and her physical appearance is, and I think you made a good point, Darth, about Abby in the show being more traditionally feminine looking, and maybe they did want people to more like empathize with her more, but like that was kind of the, again, without going too deep into it, that's kind of the point of the second game. And I guess I don't want to make too much judgment because a physical appearance is just a physical appearance, but it is core to her character. And so it is a strange decision on the showrunner's part, but I am open to see what they're doing differently and, how they're justifying that, but it does seem like a strange choice.
Yeah, there's a thing that happens later on that I recall and have always thought was really unique that you just don't see in media with Abby, with a character that looks like Abby, right? Where she's not typically feminine, but she's allowed to be sexual in this moment later on, and that's not going to be the case anymore, right? She's physically typically feminine, and I'm curious what they end up doing with that, because I recall at the time a lot of people on Reddit were not happy about that scene for obvious reasons, and I remember being like, oh, this is really refreshing and like not something you typically see in portrayed in media. So yeah, I think there's a lot of implications, and they're going to have to deal with them, and I don't have a value judgment on it yet, but I think Darth is on the money. Like it makes her more readily relatable because she looks like a typical person that we see on television and movies. Like she's a skinny, attractive woman. She's the type of person you see on TV. A character like Abby from the game, which was the point of the way that they sort of designed her in the game, is she's not someone that you typically see on in media portrayed. So yeah, I'm curious where that goes, but.
I was gonna say it's a really bleak point of view for me to say this, but it is easier for the audience for her to be the soft feminine one because she is still portraying strength, and so the audience is able to say, oh, I can be that. I don't have to work to make myself stronger. I can still have the strength that she does and go and face the man that killed my dad. I can go do all this stuff without having to do the hard stuff, without having to build up my body over years. I don't have to put in all of that hard work. Which is like one of the ways that Star Wars has gone, is like you don't have to put in the work to train. You could just be born special. And that kind of, it feels like what this change is that they're like, oh, anyone can be this hardcore. You don't have to train to be hardcore, which is
you
what
don't have
the
to
game
find the
Abby
MacGuffin.
did.
You are the MacGuffin.
Yeah, you're still gonna need Luke's lightsaber though. Let's be real. Abby does get that pistol, so Ellie does get that pistol. It's a metaphor. Yes, that is a good point, Darth. So the basic setup here is that Abby. So in to Danielle, can you cliff notes for us the first game's plot and how this relates? Do you have like a concise summary of? Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, I don't think I follow what you're asking.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying
got it.
is like, okay, Doc, you go. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, so in the first game, Ellie is immune to the disease, and so they take her to the good guys who are going to make a cure for the disease out of Ellie's like special blood. And then Joel finds out, oh, they're going to have to kill Ellie in order to make this cure, and so Joel goes and kills all of the doctors there. And Abby's dad was one of those doctors that Joel killed. So this season 2 starts off with Abby, the daughter of the man who was killed by Joel, vowing vengeance along with other members of of her team who were their friends or colleagues or maybe family members were also killed by Joel as he murdered everyone there in order to save Ellie. So this entire thing is starting off as a revenge plot.
Yeah, nice one. That's exactly what I was fishing for.
That was perfect.
Yeah. And the crucial thing is that her friends, they're not super sold on this as an idea. They're not thrilled about this as an idea. Abby, revenge, she's bought in. Everyone else is like, this might be a bad idea, dude. Like, maybe let's chill out.
And that plays out very much so in the next episode as well, I think.
Big time.
They wrote that quite well.
Yeah. And a change that they've made is that they're all kind of intimidated by Abby or scared of her. Or there's a vibe where, like, there's something about her, and I think it sells her danger really well, where, like, they kind of are like, she's treated like the Terminator, even if she doesn't look like it, by everyone around her.
Which would have made sense.
I know.
Now that it makes sense now.
I still like it. I still think it works really well. Especially for her to be unassuming like that. I don't know. It's really fun to me. But yeah, so that's the setup. So she's going to go on a revenge quest, and the first 2 episodes are basically the build-up and payoff of that revenge quest, which is then going to incite future complication for Ellie. Where we join the gang in Jackson, we've got this place where there's some rift between Joel and Ellie. We don't yet know the source of that rift. We can guess. Maybe it's that time that he did a big murder on the people at the hospital. But there's something else there, right? She's a teenager. She's 19. They've made some choices about how they've written Ellie that I think maybe speak to what you were alighting before, Darth, about people maybe not liking her character so much in this season. They've written her initially a lot younger tonally and behaviorally, that's not a word, behavior-wise, than she is maybe in the games. There's a moment where she and Tommy are hunting, and she just does like a really like silly childish thing of like yelling that she's immune or whatever. Like there's a petulance here that she doesn't really have in the, like, Ellie in part 2 is like sulky and like sullen. She's not petulant, but she's very petulant here. In a way that I find interesting, and my assumption is that at the end of episode 2, that's going to go away and be replaced by a sullenness and a darkness and a, you know, and I think that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to be like, this is where she was fun and light, and then this thing happens, and then she becomes
it's like they feel like the moment at the end of episode 2 will land more if there's a shift to her behavior rather than her just being a depressed, down teenager, you know? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's such an odd choice to me because it feels, I don't want to say I won't go as far to say that it's bad writing, but like a character can't be like sullen and have some sort of change happen to them. Like it's odd to me. And she's older in the show than she is in the game. I mean, just by a year. She's 18 in the game. And that stood out to me immediately, how immature she was coming off. Even Dina too. Just the decisions they make are so odd throughout this episode. I think also it doesn't really feels antithetical to the world that they're living in. Why would you make foolish decisions when you're living in a world with zombies running around? And they, like in the game, like, yes, they do some foolish things, but like they know when to be serious. So it's just an odd choice to me. I don't know.
Which is funny because that felt very natural to me, and it immediately made me think of what's her name, the postpan from Station 11, where she reacted to the world in a completely different way, where she didn't see the danger even when there like was danger around. And so like the way that Ellie and Dina were acting, like part of me, yes, hated it because I'm so very like militaristic in that fashion. I would have been like, no talking, we have to do this, everything is by the book, you know, your finger's always on the safety and all this kind of stuff. But then like how they were acting makes sense for like teenage girls who are still like that. That's how Ellie was in season 1. And I never really saw that as like she was acting this way because she was immature. I saw her as acting that way because that's Ellie. And so when she kept that in season 2, it didn't really it didn't surprise me, I guess.
I guess I see it more as like 14 and 19 are very different ages, so I feel like she could have held on to that without being ignorant, I feel like, is some of the things she did. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Like, she has a spirit to her that I think should be kept, and if that's what they were going for, then I'm glad they kept it. But also,
Yeah, and I think part of her character was supposed to be that she kind of like refuses to acknowledge the seriousness of situations. And so she's always joking as a defense mechanism. And then also the fact that she is literally immune from the thing that everyone else in the world will die from. So she's also like carefree because she can be carefree. Which doesn't defend Dina acting the same way. She's just crazy.
Yeah. I think where this runs into some challenges is part of what makes the situation that she finds herself in this season really relatable is that we've all been 19. We know what it's like when you have authority figures in your life where you're like, there's a divide between you for whatever reason that feels like unsolvable. You want Ellie's position to feel like a serious position that she believes in, that she's like attending with, vigilance, and it just doesn't feel that way. It really just feels like her and Dina are like the brats of Jackson. And they can get away with anything, right? One of the things that you and I talked a lot about, Danielle, in The Last of Us Part 2 is that Jesse, Dina, and Ellie are effectively like they are like the golden children of Jackson, right? They are like the people that are going to inherit this city when they get older. And that's sold really well in the game because they're hyper competent. Like, yes, they joke around, and yes, there is a brattiness to Dina in particular in the game. But like you alluded to before, when the moment calls for it, they lock the fuck in and they can do the goddamn job. And you get that from Jesse a lot, and you get that a little bit from Ellie. But I'm just not sure they sell it enough in this opening act for it to feel like they've earned this leeway that they get with everybody. People are when they go on patrol, the patrol leader is expecting them to misbehave, and there's no consequences for that, right? There's
It's all action, no consequence, I think.
Yeah.
Is how
Well,
I've
think
written
about
down.
it. I think that's maybe more about Joel and Tommy than them, because they're the children of royalty and not being treated that way because of themselves, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's sort of what I was saying. Yeah.
But another question I had was how realistic or unrealistic would it be for them to have these personalities? Because I guess it's like completely swapped in the game. She's like super sad and stoic and everything in season 2, and in the show she's like super happy and everything. But this is the first time that Ellie has been like safe and had a house and like a bedroom and mostly enough food to eat, and had friends and had a family, like for the first time in her life, aside from like the one friend in the in like a literal orphanage. So not the best time. And so wouldn't it make more sense for her to be this open and carefree because this is the first time she's been able to be carefree?
I mean, perhaps, but I will say, like, in the game as well, like, they do illustrate moments like she's quiet, she's sullen, but she's not devoid of like her her fun, I guess. Like there's a whole scene where her and Dina are like having a snowball fight, and it's kind of cute, and it's like just an early gameplay segment illustrating their relationship together. And you know, they do find the weed as well in the game, and there's a nice banter with them. Like Ellie definitely hangs on to that part of her that exists in the original game. And I think a lot of it comes down to, at least for me, that the show is just different, and I have to kind of accept that, because we could go back and forth like this for a while probably.
Yeah, and I'm sure we will.
But,
and you know, that was a part of, you know, a lot of the things that I tried to avoid with the Station 11 discussion that we had, because obviously I'd read the book and the guys were just watching the show, but like the difference, I think, and this is something I've been really struggling to like find a way to articulate, is Darth is gonna laugh because it's a really obvious thing to say, but the fact that it's a TV show means that they are gonna have to make changes, because you don't get the leverage of I'm driving this character, I'm in charge, I'm moving them. You don't get the automatic empathy that comes with playing as a character. So they have to do other things to make you engage and interested and like these characters and think they're funny or think that they're interesting, because you don't have the mediation of I'm physically holding the controller, pointing this character and making them do stuff, right? We talk about that a lot with the first game, where like the reason the ending of that first game sinks its shot is that you've been playing as Joel this whole time, and you walk into that hospital room and the game says, unless you pull the trigger and shoot this man in the head, you cannot progress, right? It sinks its shot on the mediation of the medium itself, making that moment work. And so they have to do something different in this season to make you empathize with Ellie, because you're not playing as her. The same with Abby. You know, it's why you get that pretext of the graves. It's why they do some more interstitial stuff with Abby. They're adding material to hopefully make you relate to these characters more. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to like a directing choice of that performance with Ellie in a few key moments where I think they needed to dial it down by 10 or 15 degrees, right? Like it's the idea's right. It's the execution doesn't quite click in for me. But yes, we could go back and forth forever about like the fact that it's different.
Yeah.
You know, but like other changes I really like, you know, having Joel be a shitty project manager before the end of the world and then being a shitty project manager like in the post-apocalypse is really fun. He has a really great joke where Tommy's wife is like, oh, we need to build more stuff, like, you know, we don't have enough space, and he's like, oh, like that's fine, I'll just what I'll do is I'll we have this great meter, the constructor meter, I'll just turn that one up and we'll build faster. And I was like, yeah, that's like that's a thing that this is a guy who's made that joke for the 30 years of his career as like a carpenter, like a builder. Like that's just a thing that he's done on actual job sites before the end of the world. I thought that was really, and then Tommy comes in and he's like, oh, did you tell her about the construction meter? Like it's really fun. That was
good brother energy right there.
Really good brother energy. Yeah. And you could tell they worked together before the end of the world. Right. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. That sort of energy that Tommy and Joel bring in this show, which is in the game, but it's a lot warmer here than we see, I think, in the game. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the next thing that I have is the big therapy scene, because that's kind of our introduction to where Joel is at. Do you guys have anything before Cursed therapy session?
I don't know where to put this pitch, so I'll put it here, because I'm wondering if the beginning focusing on Abby and her friends, and then you have like multiple other scenes, not a lot, but you've got a few other scenes of her and her friends who are like slowly working their way towards hunting Joel. And I'm wondering how it would have played out if all of that were cut and just kind of suddenly out of the blue Joel is accosted by this group of people, and it's really quickly obvious that they're there for revenge. And part of me is thinking like that hits so hard, because that's That's what like revenge is. Like you don't know that it's coming. You're not planning on it. You wouldn't see it ahead of time like we the audience saw it. And do we have to connect with Abby because you're not necessarily supposed to? And would that sell this whole thing of like revenge begets more revenge, which begets more revenge, to not have it, to have it come out of the blue and not be, connected to those characters at all?
I think it's interesting that you say that because in the game, it's pretty close to that. Like, you do get some time with Abby, but you don't. It depends on how quickly you'll catch on to sort of little hints that are dropped in dialogue. But they don't come out and say that they're there to kill Joel. Like, you don't know why they're there. And you get...
Okay.
I actually really loved the segment of Abby in the beginning of the game. Because when you first play it, it's confusing. I remember being confusing. I was like, who is this? Like, why am I playing as this random person? But replaying it at least was so cool because, like, knowing how events play out, like, just listening to their dialogue, it's just their dialogue. It doesn't really plant anything. It's just the characters talking to one another that, things that will make sense later. But you never know about Joel until, the moment happens.
So literally the moment.
I don't know. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember if I picked up on anything, to be honest. I don't think I did because I'm notoriously bad at that kind of thing. But I knew something was going on at the moment, but yeah.
I recall vividly the first time I played that game when Joel introduces them, like when he says Tommy and then Tommy says Joel. I remember being like, why did Abby react like that? Like I vividly remember being like, what what is going on? And then you get
it's I think it's one of those TV things where it's like they don't quite trust us as the audience to like pick up on it, like, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
Whereas like for some of us, like, I know that when I haven't picked up on things like that in shows, I've actually really enjoyed it either way because it's a bit of like a mindfuck moment, or it's like a I was onto you type moment, but never I was robbed of that joy of that experience.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The first thing she does is she turns to camera and she says, I swear my vengeance on Joel Miller. And it's like, okay.
Literally. And it's like
were you
be any more obvious?
Yeah. Were you concerned that when you killed him I wouldn't put that together, show? Like,
or that we wouldn't put together that these are the graves of literally the people that were just killed? Like,
right.
You put the giraffes in the shot. I understand logistically what's happening. Yeah.
That makes me happy to know I was pitching something that the game actually did.
Yeah. Well, it is
my
one of the
gosh.
seminal criticisms I've seen of this season is that it really doesn't trust the audience to follow. Which I get it. That second game is really divisive. And people were really upset by the plot choices for a lot of the wrong reasons that we talked about extensively. A lot of that is bad faith criticism, but people like me, right, like I struggle with a lot of it because it is a game that is doing this big empathy trick that doesn't happen till halfway through. And so but you still have to make that first half work at the time, and they struggle. And in retrospect, it is one of my favorite experiences, even if I don't love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, they really have to stop down multiple times and be like, this is what's happening. And they do it with the fucking infected as well, where they're like, you're spreading ghost stories about intelligent infected, Ellie. And it's like, Jesse, I was there. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to tell me,
or it's
Jesse.
like with the roots and stuff, like, it just, all of it is, all that, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me absorb it and experience it,
Yeah, there's a lot of overselling, perhaps is the way to say it, where they really have to make sure that you're following. Which, look, I get it. That first season of TV came out of nowhere. I'm still impressed that normal people in my life know who Ellie and Joel are. That's crazy to me still. I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
That my normal friends are like, when's The Last of Us Season 2 coming out? And I'm like, who are you? I've been playing this game for most of my... What are you talking about?
Right.
Still wild to me. But no,
Wait, can I just make
Yeah, go.
I was just going to make a comment real quick that as much as I love The Last of Us, I didn't play it when it initially came out. I played it just so I could play part 2 when that came out. I think I finished part 1 in like February 2020, like right before COVID hit.
I know this is like common Danielle lore, so I don't want to be the guy that's like, that's crazy. But like, it still is wild to me because I remember when that second game came out, I had just been dumped and the game came out. I played like the first 2 hours, which is like the segment of where this ends. And I was just like, I was emotionally unprepared for where that story went. And I was just a fucking wreck for like a week. Like it just, boy, it got me real good.
Yeah. It is I don't remember if I cried the first time I played through it, but I certainly cried the second time.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't believe the emotion. Like I didn't expect it, which like it is sad. So like obviously I was sad the first time, but I guess it didn't move me as much the first time, which is weird. It's an odd thing to say, but playing it a second time just really got me. I was not having a fun time.
Yeah. But I think that's part of what the game does, right? Like that's the big trick it's pulling, and that's why it always hits hard when you come back to it, because like you so feel for both of these characters. Like this, it's such a freighted thing because both characters' perspectives you empathize with, and you feel badly for both of them, and you feel badly like it's the ultimate tragedy. Where it's like we talked about with we recently did a Patreon coverage of Hamlet, and like it's a similar kind of vibe toward the end of Hamlet, where like everyone is just ruinous by the end of this thing, and there's seemingly no light at the end of the tunnel for any of these people, and this moment is where it all begins to go wrong, right? Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the therapy session, because my notes here simply read, the therapist getting shit-faced is really fun. Then I've got Joel killed her husband, ? And then I've simply written, oh, so they hired Pedro Pascal for a reason. They just sat him down and they went, Pedro, do acting, please. If you could act, that would be great. And he went, yep, I remember how to act, and he does a good acting. Yeah. Darth, can you set this scene up for us? What's the thing that's happening?
If I recall correctly, this takes place inside the therapist like living room, and he walks in, and it's like the hard boots on the hardwood floor, and it's just like complete silence, and it was a beautiful shot and beautiful sound design on everything, and I was really taken aback when the line was so offhanded about like you killed my husband or something. I don't remember how it was stated, because it was like somehow subtle even though it was overtly stated, and I was like, do I need to rewind it? Did I really miss something? Because why aren't they talking about this? That's too big of something to drop without like more information. And then I could just hear David's voice like in my head, like just keep going, it'll get there.
It's me and your brain being like, it's fine, Darth. They'll explain it later.
But like so the therapist is like trying to pull something out of him, and he's just like welling up with tears, and like I don't remember if he's ever able to actually say anything. I think he just like nods yes or something.
He says I saved her, and then leaves.
Yeah. And she, from this point forward, the dynamic between them's great, because she clearly in this moment is like, if he can do this thing and admit this thing he did, I might be able to forgive him what he did to my husband. And he can't do it, and so she doesn't. And later on, when Joel like punches David or whatever, she looks really smug about it. Like, you get a shot of her reacting to that, being like, yeah, fuck you, Joel, like, piece of shit. There's a really cool there's a cool quality to this relationship where she knows him, right? And I say that with all the emphasis on the word know. Like, she knows who Joel is after this moment. and has forever made that value judgment, and he cannot come back from that. But yeah, we don't know what him killing her husband means. And I didn't put this together, Danielle, because I'm a fucking idiot. But this is her husband was Eugene.
Eugene. Yes.
Watching it this time, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I did not put it together the first time I watched this season of TV. Yeah.
Yeah, good old Eugene.
Good old Eugene. Weed Gene, as we call him.
Oh,
Great
God.
character. Great character. Yeah, Pedro Pascal really does it. And this also sells the divide between them, right? That's there's this big thing between them. And it seems like Joel knows that she might, Ellie maybe knows, there's some of that going on.
I mean, worth pointing out is, like you said, the word divide so many times, but she is treating him like granted he's paying her with pot, right? but she's still treating him like she's doing the doctor, like, I will help the patient even though she might low-key hate his guts. It's really hard to tell because you don't like overtly see hate coming out of her. It's a really weird emotion of, like, she can't decide if she hates him or not. She can't decide if she likes him or not. It was really weird vibes, and I don't know if, like, the stuff later on makes it make more sense or not. Like like the circumstances of the death, I mean.
Oh, I think so. I definitely, or for me at least, the circumstances of the death do completely modify this scene and make it make complete, like, emotional sense to this character. But what I would say is, like, you ever worked with someone that makes decisions that you fundamentally disagree with, but they are just incredibly charismatic and charming? Joel is that type of guy. Joel is the guy where, like, he does shit that you find deeply unethical, that you fundamentally disagree with, but fuck, you can't help but like him. He's like a fun dude to be around. That's Joel.
Yeah.
You know?
That sums it up pretty well.
I wish you hadn't kept talking. I was gonna say, yeah, I'm on your podcast.
This is why we don't hang out outside of this show. So, where's Eric? Let me see if he's free to chat. He's my favorite brother at the moment. Anyway, yeah.
He's literally downstairs. We go swap out, and I'll hold the crying baby.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you'll tag out, and people will be like, "Darth's cut his hair," because the ongoing joke, Danielle, is no one can tell Darth and Eric apart.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Which, I mean,
They're just like white people racist. We don't look that similar.
You don't. That's what I've been saying. You don't. But never mind that. Yeah. I think this sets up some really cool stuff for Joel. It gives us a character who is trying to work on himself. And the big addition, obviously, Danielle, is that he's going to therapy and he's trying to work on himself, which is something that is completely new. And we get the addition of that scene with early on with Dina and Joel, which we haven't talked about yet, that I do want to dote on quickly because I think it's fantastic screenwriting to have Dina be friendly with Joel and for us to see that on screen. And it's, look, I get it. The girl that you like, she's having problems with her dad. Being friendly with her dad, trying to help repair that rift makes complete sense to me. It's like a really cute addition for Dina to be kind of friendly with Joel and to have that relationship. And it makes them, the logistical choice of them being together in the next episode, feel a bit more sensible. Like these two people are friends, and that's like really cute.
I want to say it was like a lot deeper than that. Even the first scene where you see Dina and Joel interacting, and because like I remember immediately thinking like she's another daughter, even without having any context there to support that yet.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, because Dina's family is dead.
I don't think I've gotten far enough to learn that information.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm trying to remember from the game because you.
In the game, I'm pretty sure her family is alive. Like at least her sister is. Like she talks about them.
In the temple, right? When you do that puzzle in the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the temple and some other offhand comments that I can't think of at the moment, but yeah.
Yeah. because her family are like Holocaust survivors, I think. I can't remember.
I think that's right, but I don't remember now.
Yeah, this is good. This is David and Danielle trying to remember a game. This is great stuff.
And this is it sounding like another language to me because I don't. Yeah.
People are yelling at their phones right now. They are screaming at their Bluetooth headset the answer to Ellie's, to Dina's family. But the crucial thing here, I think, is that they really sell the chemistry between Ellie and Dina, and Dina and Joel, and this sort of triumvirate that is going to form between them. That is presumably going to be used to make Joel's death hit even harder, which, fuck you, Craig Mazin. Didn't need to do that to me. It was already hard enough experiencing. And I like the extent to which they sell Dina trying really hard to connect with Ellie in a way that maybe is new to me. There's that great moment on patrol where there's a Darth joke where Dina goes, "What do you call a grizzly's ribs? Barbecue?" And Ellie is like genuinely thrilled that she's come up with this on the spot. Like, there's the chemistry between these two actors is phenomenal.
They do
Really
a great job.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say my favorite part is when Dina walks Ellie through game mechanics about throwing a glass bottle to
Oh my
distract
god, that
the
was
infected.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right after she
Like, that's in
engages,
the game.
right after she engages her super hearing, like in the game.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Really fun.
Oh yeah.
That never even clicked when that happened. That like how much of a video game thing that was.
It's a
Which
great
I
mechanic.
really, I mean, I loved that scene, but also, like I said, part of me was just like screaming at them, like, you morons, why are you doing this?
Right.
And then the other part was like, this is really cool. I like the fact that they're being irresponsible because
Yeah, making the mountain out of the molehill type thing. Yeah.
Also, and maybe this is a personal preference, but this wouldn't be my first choice of a date, is to go into an infected supermarket to fight undead.
I mean,
you're not adventurous. I
yeah,
mean,
come on, David,
Just
speak
gotta
for
live a
yourself.
little.
Yeah.
I'm an outdoorsy kind of guy. Like, maybe I just want to go to see a film and go to a bar. Like, is that so crazy?
Okay. Come on.
Come on now.
here in America,
Yeah.
first dates have guns.
Yep.
And cordyceps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would be dead in a second in the apocalypse. But yeah, Dina has the cool power of, she has the is it called active listening? Do you remember, Danielle,
I don't know, actually. I
But you
cannot
hit-
think
Talking
of what
about a
that
game
mechanic is.
mechanic?
Yeah. You hit a button.
I'm not
and
sure.
Your character crouches and listens real hard, and they can sort of they
See through
out-
walls.
you see through walls and see silhouettes and stuff, which is what Dina does, where she is
Okay.
counting the infected.
So she's like a bat. She's echolocating.
Yes, actually.
Yeah, like literally.
Yeah.
And
Right.
this sounds really silly. I do genuinely like the fact that this is just a knack that Dina has. They don't explain it. They're like, she can just do this. No one else can do this. She can
Well-
just do this, and that's fine.
The way they do it in the show, like from what I just heard, I think I would hate how the game portrayed that if it like was more literal echolocation, because in the show, she's just differentiating the different voices,
Correct.
quote unquote. And so there are people, I've been like in the music world for a long time, and there are people who could hear any note that you play or sing, and they will tell you what note that was. So all this is Dina being shown to have perfect pitch. She was a
Correct.
natural born musician. She can hear the different tonalities of the different people, and therefore she can count them. All of that didn't even need explanation from me, and I'm the one who's always like, give me explanation for this. So I loved it. But if it was actually, she was like, okay, they're 2 feet this way, because my echolocation can do it, I would not have liked that.
Oh, Danielle, they're
be
gonna do some
fair-
shit with this later, aren't they? Because of
Yeah, it's
Ellie's
like Chekhov's guitar, right? Chekhov's guitar.
I didn't think about that. Oh,
Neither
okay.
did I, but now that Darth said it out loud, I'm dreading it. Okay. Anyway,
Okay.
sorry, you go,
Chekhov's
Danielle.
guitar, yeah.
Chekhov's guitar. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna comment on the bottle thing again. That, well, I have 2 comments. The bottle thing, that I thought she was gonna like throw it at the infected's head and then stab it, because like that's the ideal way to do it in the game. So I was a little disappointed that she didn't do that. But also in the game, I don't think they ever comment on the sort of echolocation thing, at least for themselves. Like I don't think they're like, Joel, like how are you doing that?
No.
Unless I'm forgetting some comment.
I don't think so, because diegetically it's not actually something that they can do, because if you play on grounded mode, you can't
Right.
do that. So they can't write it into the game, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. I've never played grounded mode.
Don't.
I don't want
did
to.
the
Is that like the legendary mode?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like fuck you. Like enjoy.
Yeah.
You don't have that power to see through walls, which in a 3D game space is critical. I played the first game all the way through on grounded, and yeah, it took me like 2 months. Don't do it.
Oh god.
It's good fun though.
I think there's something worth mentioning. The reason that they go into that building, like the first place that they, it's not in the supermarket. Like she falls into the supermarket, but they're like above it in like an apartment or something.
I think they're in the office space
but
above the supermarket.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I think if I remember right, the reason they go in there is because they're going riding their horses down the road, and they come across like a carnage scene, and there's like some like zombie bodies, and then there's like a dead bear carcass or something, and they're like, what could have killed a bear?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that ringing a bell?
Yeah. Hence the
Okay.
barbecue joke.
Okay.
Oh,
And
right.
so then they go in to try to figure it out. They find like a couple clickers up top, and that's who they fight. Then the floor breaks. Ellie falls through the floor. And then that's where she faces the new breed of smart zombie, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so that's like the beginning of one of my like biggest issues of all of this, which is the with all of this season, which is the zombies. It's the evolution of the big bad. How like every villain that Sherlock faces always has to be smarter, has to be stronger, whatever than the last villain.
Yeah. Even more
And-
bisexual than the previous.
Oh my god.
I don't know, man. Moffat just loves to do that. It's so weird. But sorry, go on, Darth.
I adored this scene where she's trying to figure out how do I fight and track this thing that is intelligently countering everything that I know to do against it, right? So I loved how that played out, and I'm like, this, especially like happening so quickly on in the season, I'm like, okay, this is setting up a brand new big bad for the entire season, because there is now an
And-
evolution of this virus.
And they set that up in a really cool way, because they gave you that classic horror thriller tracking shot, and then right before the frame cuts, you see it scuttle across the floor, and it gives you
Yeah.
that.
It sucks,
Heebie-jeebie type
dude.
feeling.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, this shit physically
it was
hurt
shot
me the
so
first time I saw
beautifully.
it. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
They nailed that.
And we'll pick that up
And I
as
think
we continue.
well, the other thing is, I think that feels like a more, I don't want to say realistic, but like for me, a more believable evolution of it, rather than the sort of big heavy guy
Yeah.
that sort of just wanders around. Like,
Yeah, this is exactly what should happen. Is you are trying to defeat your prey in a way that is your biggest weakness, which is
which is their
intelligence.
smartness, right? Yeah.
Yes. So this perfectly made sense to me, and it did not evolve throughout the show. I didn't mean the pun, but it didn't evolve throughout the show in a way that I think that it should have. It was more like they were just, we have to make a different bad guy. I would have rather they
Because video
kept
games.
the same zombies, keep the same clickers that we had before. Don't even have any of them, because that's not the point of this entire season. Like, all of the horde stuff is a major distraction from the actual interesting stuff,
Right.
which is so backwards for me to be saying, like, to cut the action. Like, that doesn't, that's my bread and butter. But if you're not going to really focus on the virus, I keep saying virus, into the fungus, like, changing in a way that is the major threat. If you're not going to focus on that, then don't introduce the idea at all.
It's interesting because the stalkers are in the first game. They are introduced, but admittedly they're only used like in one encounter, I think. They're used a lot more heavily in part 2. I don't know, David, if I'm correct about that.
Do you remember the encounter that they're in part 1? Because I don't think they are.
Oh, aren't they in the like the basement where Joel like falls down the elevator? Yes, they are there. They are definitely there.
Yeah.
I feel very positive about this statement. I
Isn't
think that's
that where
the
you
only
first fight a
place.
bloater?
Yes. Well, no, that's not where you
No.
first fight a bloater.
Okay.
But you
there
do
is a
fight bloaters in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you're right, I think.
But I think that's the only time they're introduced. And then in part 2, you encounter them quite often to the point where it's like, I don't remember these enemies in the first game. Even though they are there, they're introduced in like storytelling bits, but not a whole ton in gameplay. But yeah.
Yeah. And there's that tremendous sequence, one of the standout sequences in part 2, where you descend through that infected skyscraper. They're all throughout that level, and it's the fucking worst.
Yep.
They communicated that vibe really well in this sequence of like, you're just on, like, you're on tenterhooks the entire time. Like, you're just like completely, like, just every piece of adrenaline in your body is spiking at the same time. But to Dart's point about this not being the thing that's interesting about the show, I want to give you a little excerpt from Alison Herman's article where she compares Station 11 and The Last of Us as two sides of the HBO apocalypse, which I think really illustrates Dart's point quite well. So this is from Alison Herman on her article from The Ringer. Quote, "The Last of Us is often described as post-apocalyptic, though that's not exactly true. In this series, the apocalypse is ongoing, a perpetual source of pressure, panic, and dread. The cordyceps strain that turns its victims into fungal monsters continues to rage, leaving humankind's dregs in constant survival mode. The Last of Us has heavy overtones of horror throughout, including a nail-biting sequence in which two blind infected hunt down terrified humans by sound. Thanks to a special effects budget that's decidedly post-Game of Thrones, gory spectacles like massive bloaters are rendered in hauntingly plausible detail. The tension is high, the reprieves are short-lived, and the palette is quite literally dark. Station 11, by contrast, is post-apocalyptic in the truest sense of the term. The superfluid it depicts may be deadly, but is also swift, running its course in a matter of days. The opening episode is sparing in what it chooses to show, a cough here, a frozen corpse there, and draws most of its impact from what it implies about events off-screen. From there, the sieve and hopscotches in time. Its present tense plays out in 2040, when the chaos of social collapse is finally settled into something like a status quo. As in The Last of Us, that status quo has its share of violence and danger. Visually, though, this new world is bright and lush, filled with sunlight and bold colours. Kirsten, who was given her copy of Station 11 hours before the outbreak by a castmate of King Lear, has found refuge in the Travelling Symphony, a touring theatre troupe that performs Shakespeare for small settlements around the Great Lakes. The symphony fashions costumes from goalie gloves and plastic bags, an easy shorthand for salvaging beauty from the abyss. This near future is a blank slate, an empty space affords room to rebuild." End quote. And I think that speaks really well to the priorities of The Last of Us by contrast, right? It's not really interested in rebuilding, and it kind of never has been, despite the fact that they build this city in this season. Literally, they build this giant set in the middle of fucking Wyoming for this sequence, and it's used for a big splashy Game of Thrones, assault on the keep sequence, right? Like,
I could almost argue that season 2 feels like it's about like tearing down much more than it is about building or reconstruction or anything like that. Like, Ellie's and Joel's relationships are degrading, and Dina and Jesse go from like being a couple to like their relationship degrades, but then they're trying to make it work towards the end, and all of these different relationships are just breaking and causing all of this drama in the midst of the apocalypse. And it's like, yes, you should be like trying to rebuild and save humanity and all that, and it's just the show is about it getting worse.
Yeah, The Last of Us admittedly has a very bleak outlook or philosophical view of the world, for sure.
It's very, very much Neil Druckmann's like, and we talked extensively, so I don't want to rehash this here. I'm sure we'll have much more to say about it next season, but we talked extensively about like Neil Druckmann's view of and understanding of Gaza and where he grew up, and his frankly bad politics when it comes to like his conception of violence. And this show doesn't for me yet, right? And like having seen the second season and having not seen the third season, it doesn't yet seem to have a perspective on that philosophy. Like I would expect that if Craig Mazin is adapting this and trying to salvage what little you can from this text when it comes to its conception of violence, I would expect it to have something to say, and it doesn't yet. And so I'm curious in the third season if they can find a way to like dig themselves out of Druckmann's like, I don't know what to call it other than like aggressive nihilism. I'm curious if they can find something to do with that isn't just rehashing a lot of the same issues that I had with the plot of the game. And they kind of do, like, you know, the relationship between Ellie and Dina is a lot more warm and like caring. But then they do other stuff where they back away from the line. Anyway, we'll get to it later, but I just want to plant the seed of like, does this story end up having something interesting to say about violence? I just want to kind of put that up on the chalkboard and see if we come back to it later. The last big thing after this, yeah, I mean, to repeat what we said before, this sequence is fucking scary, right? Like, when you move, it's just pure horror, and it really, really works, and I jumped multiple times. Like, it properly got us. Like, you know, we're in the apartment, the lights are off, and it, you know, we both jumped out of our skin. Like, it's such a great little sequence. And she gets bitten, and so we get the reminder, again, to your guys' point earlier, where they don't trust the audience. They have to be like, hey, do you remember that she's immune? She's immune. Here it is. And it happens again later before the payoff with... anyway, they really want you to know that she's immune.
Yeah, they're not going to let you forget that, you know.
No. And it's really gross, too, because the little, like, stuff is in her. A little, like... Yeah, it's really nasty. It's, like, moving and stuff. Yeah. It's foul. You hate to see it.
Yeah.
Yuck.
I did like the little addition, though, of her, like, using the knife to cut it to make it look like a stab wound rather than a bite.
Yeah, that stuff is really... I think that's cribbing off of the tattoo, right? It's sort of doubling down on that idea. Yeah. And does a good job of being like, hey, she's been bitten before. Like, there are multiple times where this is going to happen to her, proving once again how fragile this existence is for normal people. And maybe proving how careless she's become and taking this thing for granted. Because I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't necessarily make the assumption that because I was immune once, I'd be immune every time. You know what I mean?
Same.
I'd be like, I'm maybe not going to risk it.
Especially because she's seen that there's different like evolutions of the monsters.
Right.
And like, yeah, I was immune to this one, but am I immune to that bloater? Am I immune to this clicker? Am I immune to this smart one? Like, are they all the same?
Right.
I mean, Ellie doesn't think, so she probably would never have... that would not enter her head.
No, but that's the kind of thing Joel might be thinking about. Or Tommy, potentially. These two kind of militaristically minded guys. The last thing I have on this episode is the dance scene, which plays out largely the same as the game, with some small additions and some sequence changes. I was trying to recall, Danielle, where this takes place in the game, but it's definitely later as a flashback, right?
Yeah, it is. And
In
yeah,
fact, it's the end of the game, right? Like, you don't see the full scene until the end of the game, right?
That is correct, but everything that we saw in the first episode is part of the flashback at some point. We only see another part later.
Yes.
But, yeah. But they matched the, like, iconic shot, at least I think it's iconic, of, like, the panning down shot of, like, the back of Ellie's head overlooking everybody dancing.
Yeah.
That just... I love that shot so much.
The-
They did a really good job.
Yeah, the chandelier, like the whole thing is so well shot. And this, I remember in the trailer when they put the kiss in the trailer, and we all
Yeah.
lost our minds because we'd never seen video game characters kiss that looked good before. Like, it's always looked like shit. And it's the first time ever where they were like, oh my god, they have lip physics. And I I remember thinking when they did this sequence that I was like, oh yeah, like they just sold this really well. Like the chemistry, the way that they're flirting, like the whole thing is just really well directed and really well acted. And I love Dina in this scene because you can really feel the way that she has become untouchable in this community. And it's almost like immediately she's dismissive of David in a like, well, like, I don't know how else to explain it other than she feels like he's gonna fuck off because that's just what you do. Like, you just leave us the fuck alone. And I like that you get that because she kind of turns back to Ellie and goes to sort of put her arms around her again. And then she has to check David a second time and be like, sorry. Like, you know, I really like the way that they wrote it and sequenced it, and the shot timing and the composition. Like, I think it's just like an all-time, like, they just absolutely killed it. And then when David says his line and Joel comes in off screen and just tosses him to the ground, I was like, yeah, like that's classic Joel Miller, getting involved when he shouldn't, ready to do violence at the drop of a hat. Like, this is our boy, this is our bad dad, he's here, you know?
I do want to point out that is one thing I like a bit better about the show, which I know, like, crazy of me to say that, but it's just Dina and how she's portrayed at the beginning of, I guess, not the beginning, but, you know, just how she's portrayed in general, because, like, I like Dina fine in the game, but sometimes it somewhat feels like she's lacking a personality, and they definitely, like, characterize her better in the show for sure, and they illustrate, like, her relationship with Ellie better. Like, in the game, it just feels like they're suddenly dating and Dina would do anything for this person. I'm like, I feel like this is very much jumping the gun. Like they're establishing their relationship better in the show.
You definitely do get that sense of progression for sure. Yeah. Especially like when they start off and it's that kind of teach me how to throw a bottle, and then it's like, you know, the sort of sneaking away type thing, but then that evolves and it over time becomes more meaningful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The time difference, I think, also sells it a lot more. Like, we get more of them before the Joel thing, right? Like, that makes a huge difference. You get at least a couple extra days here to establish them.
I will add also a tiny little detail about this whole scene is at the end of the first song, we get a shot of the actual composer of the game playing in the band.
Oh, that's really cute.
He's at the very end. Yeah, which I absolutely love. So.
I love that this show does that all the time. At the end of season 1, Laura Bailey is one of the nurses in the operating room. God. And I clocked it on a rewatch. And I was like, oh, that's Laura Bailey, what the fuck? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really fun. I didn't know that, Danielle. That's good. That's good and cute, and I'm here for it. Yeah.
I love it.
The kind of way that this plays out is Joel intervenes. Ellie's mad at him for intervening. She's like, I don't need your fucking help. And then she kind of goes back home. He's sitting on the balcony, and she basically, he kind of looks over at her, and she walks past him and goes to bed, and doesn't speak to him.
And he's playing her guitar, right?
Yeah, probably.
Oh yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah,
because he was going to retune it or something.
Yeah, at the time I thought there was something like very symbolic about that, and I don't know if I ever figured out what that was, but I guess it shows that he was trying to do something to fix what he just ruined. So now he's obviously there trying to fix her piece of equipment when she gets back. I don't maybe that's how his brain works.
Oh yeah, that's big. That's big Joel energy to be that literal. Like, he's like, I will do a material thing which will make up for all of the emotional trauma I've inflicted on you. Like, it's the most Joel Miller thing of all time.
I was just gonna say that that's the whole thing of Joel, right? Is that he doesn't feel his feelings, he doesn't express them, so he's doing what he knows how to do. Like, he'll fix something. He can't fix the actual problem, but he'll fix something.
Yeah. You know, that scene with Dina, he's like teaching her how to fix a fuse or whatever. And she makes fun of him for going to therapy because it's like, yeah, it's not working, dude, because you're not doing, like, even therapy he can't fully commit to and, you know, express himself, right? Yeah.
Which I thought that the dance thing and how upset Ellie got, and part of me was like, I mean, talk about the pot calling the kettle black, because Ellie would have done the exact same thing without thinking that Joel did, but she's mad at him for doing exactly what she would have done.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
I think
Yeah.
because she, in that moment, feels like she was the one that should have shoved him, if that makes sense. Like, he's
Yes.
kind of robbing her of her, I don't know what.
Her agency in
adulthood? I
the
don't know,
situation.
like what? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Typical 19-year-old teenager thing, I guess.
Yeah, and she does a good job in these two episodes of expressing the extent to which the town sees her as Joel's daughter first and Ellie second, right? Like, she is the adopted daughter of Joel before she's anything else. And you even get that with Tommy, where, like, you know, she's like, well, he can't pull me off patrol. Yeah, he can't tell me what to do. And Tommy's like, well, he can tell me what to do. Like, I really like that dynamic of she's kind of stuck being the daughter of the kind of gruff general that everybody takes orders from, and trying to escape from that is, like, seemingly impossible. Ironically, given where things go. You know, it's like, that's all well and good to complain about at the time, but then the second it goes away, you're like, oh, fuck, I didn't realize what I had. Yeah, classic tragedy.
I think too, and I definitely felt this in the game as well, and I won't go too deep into it just because it hasn't happened yet in the show, as far as I understand, but I always felt when I first played the game that there was something else I was missing here, and I feel that in the show too, and I'm very interested to see how things play out when they get to season 3. Like, just, you can kind of surmise, like, you can take a guess at the things that Ellie's may be feeling. And I think all the things we've said now are true. But still, like, there's just something hanging. And it always made me wonder, like, what more am I missing here? And I'm excited to see how they approach that.
Yes. I know what you're talking about. And I also am like,
Yeah.
even just to see some of that stuff on screen, I'm really excited about, because, like, it's so good in the game. Like, oh, that second conversation is like it's like an all-time scene in video games.
It is. It is.
So I'm also equally excited. But yeah, that's episode 1. Do you guys have anything else before we take a quick break?
Yes, because I don't remember where it happens. So there were, as I said, my biggest issue here was the evolution of the fungus, because I'm never going to remember how to pronounce it's not chromosomes, it's not chromadoids, it's not...
Cordyceps?
Cordyceps, yeah.
Yep, that word is not going to stick in my brain. So we see 2 other, at least, instances of something unusual. One is them in the town. They're trying to clear all of these roots out of the pipes. And so you see, like, one scene earlier on of them, like, cutting the roots out. And then you see, like, maybe at the end of the episode, you see, like, one live root that's, like, actively growing.
Yeah.
And so then you're like, oh, okay, so, like, the fungus is in there, and it has found the city, right? So now we have the new intelligent zombie, and now we have intelligent possible root system that has found the city, ?
That's in the first season, to be fair. The roots.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. 3, I don't remember where it is, but somewhere pretty early on, there's this idea of like these zombies either can't exist in the cold or they freeze really quickly. And there is like a trap that is set for someone along the road where the zombies are hiding underneath other dead zombies, which keep them warm so then they could spring up and attack people. I don't remember if that's this episode or episode 2.
That is episode 2.
Episode 2, yeah.
Because it's like we don't see it. Like that idea was communicated, and that was why one of the parties was sent out, because they were like, this just happened and we have to go investigate it. From my memory. So like
Part of it is Ellie's report on the intelligent zombie that's got them overthinking everything, right? And there's like reports of a horde that's what Joel and Tommy are Joel and Dina, I guess, in this adaptation are sent to investigate. That's kind of the shape of it. I think it's made much more explicit here in the second episode that like it's the combination of Ellie reporting this intelligent zombie plus these reports of like extra hordes, and then that's where you get the trap sort of related to that. Yeah. So they do a good job
so
of knitting it
all
together,
of that.
I guess.
Yeah, but all of that like together should have been leading, in my opinion, to somewhere, and like all that it led to was the assault on Jackson.
Yeah.
Which wasn't necessarily needed for the assault to happen, and seemed much more like it was building up towards something much bigger, like I had said earlier, of a new evolution of the plague, which we did not end up getting.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Cool. Yes. I guess we'll talk about the assault in a minute here, but we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back to talk about episode 2. This post-apocalypse unit is sponsored by the Maynard Trigg series. You can find these books at underink.press. They are my science fantasy coming-of-age novels. If you like post-apocalypse fiction, I guarantee you'll like these novels. They take place in a dying world far above the earth in the skies. They are fantasy novels, they are mystery novels, they are coming-of-age. If you enjoy the things we talk about and the way we talk about them, I guarantee you'll like these novels. Use code REVIEW10 at checkout. That's REVIEW10 at checkout for 10% off the original hardback of the first novel. That's this one right here. Once again, REVIEW10 at underink.press to grab your copy of the first Maynard Trigg book today. It's a good look.
It's not even all I want them to do is make, because the document can be gray, but wait a minute,
What
this
am I
looks
looking
just
at?
like Darth.
This looks just like Darth.
Wow.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Eric. How's it going?
What?
You can't hear
It's
us,
going
can you?
well. How are
Oh, you
we?
can. Good.
Good.
What did
Well,
you think of The Last of Us Season 2?
Oh, I think he's frozen.
He broke it.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I like, this implies that Darth had a wig on hand as well.
Right.
And an extra shirt just
so
for this
good.
gag.
Oh yeah, that is perfect.
That's so funny.
Oh, it's trying to load.
Oh, is he back?
okay, excellent. These are my thoughts. A pirate walks into a bar,
Okay.
and he has a steering wheel sticking out of his pants. The bartender says, "Hello, you have a steering wheel sticking out of your pants." And the pirate says, "Arg, I know. It's driving me nuts."
Oh my god.
Ugh.
Yep.
That will be all.
Oh my god.
Goodness
Feel
me.
luxurious
Well
now.
done. Yeah.
All right. Have fun.
Thanks, Eric.
Wait a minute. That wasn't Darth. What?
Who was that?
Who were we just talking to? With the luxurious hair.
It was rather luxurious, wasn't it?
That's so
Oh, yeah.
funny.
Luscious
That's
even.
That's
Oh,
a
yes.
bit that will not translate on the audio feed. So watch the video for that, I guess.
Yeah.
For a guest appearance by Eric. I mean, Darth doing a funny bit.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was impressed you had a wig on hand.
It's not my only one.
Hell yeah.
Okay. All right. Fucking theater kid over here.
It's. I was about to say, yeah, I have a lot of Jedi and other like bounty hunter type costume stuff that I accumulate because I'm always like, I want to make a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then invariably you just use them for bits on this show and nothing else.
Yep.
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 You got it,
That's
sir.
just the life we're living. Darth, could you clap for me for a resync? Cool. Yeah, just thank you. I don't know what you pause like it was going to be dramatic. All right.
I was doing a countdown. I don't know to what.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, that's all staying in, but welcome back. We are going to now talk about Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley, directed by Mark Mylod and written by Craig Mazin. Danielle, when you are ready, could we please hear the summary?
All right, I'm ready. Here we go. Abby and her friends scheme on a way to infiltrate Jackson and find Joel. Elsewhere, Ellie and Jesse go on patrol as Jackson prepares to defend against a horde of infected. The blizzard forces Ellie and Jesse to hole up for the night. Joel and Dina are caught up in the infected horde and bump into Abby as they escape. She leads the pair to the lodge where they are ambushed. Jesse receives a radio call that Joel and Dina are missing, and he and Ellie set off in pursuit. Jackson is assaulted by hordes of infected, but ultimately survives. Elsewhere, Dina is knocked out. Abby tortures Joel, and as Ellie arrives, Abby kills Joel.
Oh, please don't, please don't do it, please. Please don't, please don't.
I don't remember that character at the beginning. It was Ellie and her friend scheme.
I'm not even gracing that with the acknowledgement of being a bit. That's funny. For those of you playing along at home, that's funny because there's a character in Star Wars by that name. So, yeah.
Wow.
Skeen, right? Darth from Andor?
Oh, I wasn't even. You went even nerdier than I was. I was just making a bad dad joke.
Oh. Well, but... wait. What was your joke then, if not the joke about Skeen? Because Skeen's the pepper tree guy in the crew in Andor that tries to...
Okay, so I thought we were missing a comma there, and it was Ellie and her friend, comma, scheme to do something.
That was
But without the
first
comma,
sentence.
it was.
What? Abby and her friends scheme on a way to infiltrate Jackson and find Joel.
Yeah, it's like if you say I'm hungry and then someone else says, "Oh, hello, hungry." Like,
Right.
Okay.
you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for explaining that
Wait.
joke to me.
I like that we had to explain the joke there. Like,
When you said that, I was like, did I like misread something? Like, what did I do?
Just getting in Danielle's head. This is the type of gaslighting that I just want to point this out. Darth doesn't do this to Patrick every week, right? This is...
Oh my god.
You've been targeted, Danielle. That's crazy. Crazy to come in here and do that.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, now that I've ruined our momentum,
Yeah, that
episode
was really
two.
good. Thank you. We open this episode on a bunch of stuff. We get a dream with Abby that is trying to sell us on this trauma. That is sort of it's like a clip through of a flashback that we get at the start of the second half of the game. Like they're again doing that thing of like bringing some of that material forward. I think it works here. She's wandering through the hospital with the blaring red light, and there's another her there who knows what's happening, and she's like arguing with herself. I think it's really effective, and the emotion of her watching herself be about to realize that her dad is dead is really really powerful here, and I think she acts the hell out of it. Which is then followed up by them in the lodge, and the gang, frankly, being like intimidated by Jackson. Like they wake up in the morning and they're all like, "Fuck, man! Like this is a city. Like we didn't think this was what we were dealing with." I thought that was such a keen addition to be like, yeah, these people have veterans there. The veterans they're talking about are obviously Joel and Tommy. They just don't know that. I really, really thought that was clever writing. Yeah, how did this opening work for you guys? This sort of the little snippet that we get here with Abby and the gang.
I probably would have recut the whole episode, but that's just me. We can talk about that.
Okay.
I feel like it would have been better as like a Greek tragedy where they start with like the deserted Jackson and then they do the invasion, and then you get like the fateful encounter in the snow with Abby, rather than, broadcasting ahead of time what they're about to do, and then they end up back at the lodge and then everything turns and you get the catastrophe and the catharsis at the end with no aftermath, is how I feel about that. And then aftermath is cut to the next episode.
Right. So you want it to be structured like a Breaking Bad episode where it opens on like a zoomed in shot of the broken golf club and then a zoomed in shot of like the deserted Jackson Street.
Like proper. No, you start with like the omen and then the encounter and then the catastrophe.
Right.
And then that's it. It's a one shot, like stands on its own as an episode,
Right.
But that aside, it was cool how they were like, whoa, city, fuck, we messed up. But yeah, I just think it could have been a standalone piece of art that they did a little clumsily.
I'd probably agree with that, actually. I think, as much as like some of the stuff they had in the beginning, I did like, just because it is like partially from the game and like they're recreating certain scenes. But at the same time, they're almost, in this episode at least, certain scenes are created like identically. It was almost annoying how identical. I feel like
I kept finding that like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's like the cutting back between the combat and then the betrayal stuff was just like really jarring to me. Like I couldn't just sit down and watch one bit.
This is like a high horse that I will never get down from. But this is some George Lucas fucking bullshit, where it's like you don't need to cut the Darth Maul fight with the fucking Jar Jar stuff. Like it.
Yeah, like I would have happily watched the combat and the invasion, and then separately the grotesque like, let's kill and torture Joel scene,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That Joel torture scene, I wanted them to make us sit in that for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And have the agony and the slowness of it communicated on screen instead of implied by the cutaways,
Yeah, and then I just got really annoyed because they gave you the grief afterwards as well, rather than letting you just sit with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, like doing the cut to credits and then just...
I would do the curtain after the killing, and then the next episode is when she wakes up in the morning,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need the...
Was it the morning? I forget when she wakes up, but like when she comes to.
I think that is episode... Oh, yeah, no, that is still episode 2. Because we see them riding
back. They
back.
end up back in the house with the cookies and shit, or whatever it is. I think.
Do we? Hang on, let me check.
I think that might be
Either
episode
way,
3. Yeah, but...
Yeah, but you do get some of the... That grief
you're
bit,
right.
I think, like, as they wake up and ride back should happen at episode 3, not episode 2.
No, for sure.
In my opinion.
If you keep it at all.
I think it would be a tighter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of it too is so the assault on Jackson is a completely new bit of material, right? I think it's worth saying that out loud. That's not present at all.
Oh, I didn't know that. There you go.
And logistically, this changes a bunch of stuff. And I'm curious, Danielle, what your thoughts on this are, because I haven't seen a lot of people writing or talking about this, and I think it's like noteworthy. So in the game, Joel and Tommy are on patrol together. And Tommy is also present when Joel is killed, as is Ellie, obviously. The change here is that it's Dina and Joel out on patrol. Dina gets tranked during the murder. That's gone again.
Uh-oh.
We can always change the server location if we need to. Yeah. But like that logistical change is fascinating to me. Because they don't do anything with it. Like,
yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think it feels like one of those adaptational choices where it's like we need to give a reason for something that didn't need a reason. Like, why they're so absorbed with the attack on Jackson that nobody thinks, I guess, to go out and find Joel and Ellie and everybody else. But like, I don't on the my most shallow take here is that like it feels just like a way for HBO to flex their budget.
Yeah, I don't mind that necessarily, but I feel like
Yeah.
it's more of a distraction. It's like they didn't do it thoughtfully. They were just like, let's throw a bunch of money at it and make it look cool. Especially
Yeah.
that was it? What do you call the big guys? Are they the bloaters?
The bloater, yeah.
Yes.
The big heavy one that like was so video gamey, where he's like stomping through and then he's like burning down all of his flamethrower, and then right at the very last second it like melts. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
It's funny that you say that too. It felt video gamey, yet it wasn't an actual thing that happened in game.
So weird.
Which is interesting.
It's so weird.
But
It's almost like an anime moment where like it collapses in front of him. You know what I mean? Like it had a cartoonish quality to it that I don't think they intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But, like I kind of agree with that like yeah, my shallow take would be that it's them flexing their budget. My more generous take is I think they're trying to do something here with the positionality of these characters logistically, because the other thing that changes later is who leaves Jackson first, right? They are doing a thing with Ellie and Dina here by and emphasizing their relationship at the expense of a character like Tommy being involved in some of these critical moments, right? Which I'm sure our mileage is going to vary, and as the show goes on, we'll have different things to say about that, but that is sort of the thing I'm keyed into as a writing choice. Is like they're trying to foreground Ellie and Dina, and in particular, Dina and Joel's relationship in order to sell them having a stronger relationship. And getting Dina on screen with Abby is like weird to me. You know?
Yeah, it all feels weird, and it's hard for me to articulate why, because part of me feels like I tend to fall into this trap of, oh, it wasn't like the game, and I feel bad about it because I like the game and therefore bad. And I'm trying my best to look at this because it doesn't feel good to me, but to articulate why is challenging. I do think the game is very focused on what it is doing, and adding this extra layer feels like it's just tearing it. It's just adding filler that feels like there's no justification for it other than kind of what you just said, David. But even then, it's like, I feel like there are other ways for us to establish things about character without having this whole sequence.
But that's why I feel like it would have been better if it was cut at the start, so that then you've got the urgency and the adrenaline, right? And then
Yeah.
you cut to the horse tracking of Jesse and Ellie first, right? So you know that there's something that's going to happen because you've just seen it.
Right.
Not the killing bit, the invasion. And then they get the radio distress call being like, Joel hasn't come back. And then you cut to when Joel sets out with Dina, right? And then they find Abby, and then they end up at the lodge. And then Ellie bursts in. So it's all like one continuous sequence with a few cuts rather than this whole mishmash of like, yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, like, why put Dina? This is like a pet peeve, right? And this is a bullshit complaint, but like, why put Dina in the room when it happens if she's fucking unconscious? It's such, and I know why, which is they want to have the moment centered on Ellie. But then why do the work to center the relationship between Ellie, Dina, and Joel if you're not going to have Dina be able to react to Joel's death?
It would be so much better if they... Well, I mean, I was going to say, it'd be so much better if they got to experience that trauma together, right? As like a trauma bonding moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
Right? It's so weird. It super feels like they went through like 27 drafts of this and landed on like the closest to a good idea, and they went, we just have to start shooting this. Like,
yeah.
But that's the thing, they didn't have to shoot anything differently. They just had to change how they cut it, and one small bit of like Dina's awake instead of chloroformed or whatever it was. Like,
Right.
And they
it was
could
a
do the
needle
same
injection, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, they like tranked her or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
You guys are getting my audio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
we are. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna keep the camera off and see if not having that extra bandwidth will keep me connected. I don't know what's going on.
So far, so good.
But I wonder if one reason that which Abby directly says later on, or maybe it was one of her friends, but regardless, one of them is like, we let your friend live. So the fact that she is there and doesn't witness the brutal murder makes them look better. Makes them it's like
some
they
small
like
mercy,
they,
right?
is like it's in the same way that they softened Abby by making her more feminine. They by wanting the audience to be able to empathize with her more, I guess. I think that this was maybe the same thing, where having Dina be unconscious and allowed to live and not witness, by not witnessing the death, like all of that together is, I think, maybe supposed to make us empathize with the villains, because those were mercies that they granted her out of the goodness of their hearts, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
This is like a problem for me, right? And like, if the story is centrally about cycles of violence or whatever everyone always says The Last of Us is about, to what extent we agree with that is a question, I think. But if you blunt, and the show does this consistently, it's going to be something that I talk about a lot toward the middle of this story, and the ending is they take all of these big, dramatic, dark decisions and dark things that characters choose to do, and they step back from the line at the last second with all of it. There's like an instinct this show has to go, here's the thing from the game, but it's not quite that character's fault, or they've done they're doing this horrible thing, but here's also a nice thing they're doing, or like
sort of dancing around it.
Yeah, and they refuse to fully commit to the bit a lot of the time. And to me, I think I'm curious to see how that long-term sells the things that this show is about. Because if they're not fully doing the thing, then how do you justify the recourse in the other direction, right? Like, I fundamentally think that not having these characters go all the way each time, I think, is going to strain the premise, and to what Rob was talking about in his article about the game, it starts to strain credulity of like why these people are still doing these things. If there is the thought to be like, well, Abby's not that bad, they didn't kill Dina, right? Like, that's not what happens in the game. They beat the shit out of Tommy in the game. Like, he's in a bad way, and as a result, things happen. I find it a frustrating series of compromises to what should otherwise be really fraught decisions these characters make.
It really frustrates me too, because it feels like a lot of these decisions are in service of wanting to almost like spoon feed to the audience, like spoon feed some of the material, but also to a certain extent like, oh no, we don't want to go that far with this. We want to make sure that it's not, I mean, it's still like pretty bad, like the scene with Joel dying, but just like they don't want to see them beat Dina up because, you know, God forbid we go that far. And I'm not saying it's bad that they didn't do that, but I guess my point is it feels like they need to constantly like pad things, and either that means like adding stuff that makes the story a tiny bit weaker or removing stuff, and it just feels doesn't feel that strong, I guess. I don't know.
I think potentially what we also might be witnessing is I don't remember how long ago that this started coming out, but there was a big complaint amongst like audience members that villains were always two-dimensional. And so then there became this push to have villains be much more nuanced and to try to get the audience to empathize with the villain more. And like that feels like why this argument is, or this discussion is now happening, is because they were trying to make these villains less than two-dimensional. We're just out for revenge, which is all it should have been. Just all of them should have been out for revenge. They probably should have just killed Dina. That
but I think
it would have been harsher, but
I think another way they could have perhaps done that more successfully is start with the act of revenge. Like, don't even show us Abby yet until she just saunters in basically and kills Joel, and then work backwards from there where we build up to this critical moment so that right at the end you get that catharsis of like, oh fuck, like this has been eating away at her for 5 years, rather than who is this girl? Why is she killing this guy? What's happening? Like,
You don't get
kind of
that.
strange.
You don't get that in the game until literally halfway through the game.
No, and
Like-
based on that previous conversation, it sounds like the game, like, because you can see it physically, you can see it emotionally, whereas here it's kind of just like, I guess she is just sad her dad's dead. Like, I don't know what. What's
To
the
Darth's-
driver there? Like,
To Darth's point as well, like, the work of this story is to take a two-dimensional villain, right? This character does this horrible thing to Joel, and Joel's like, fundamentally, if you played those games and understood them correctly, the first game up to that point, you have deeply complicated feelings about Joel, as does Ellie, right? You don't look at him as like an unalloyed good person. You look at him as this really like harrowing figure that has compromised Ellie forever with his decisions. And when Abby kills him, you go, oh shit, this is a villain that needs to be taken down. And that is where the story leaves you halfway through, and then it does its magic trick, which I'm sure we'll get to in season 3. And it forces you to look at this two-dimensional villain as a real person. It forces you to engage with them. And it does this thing that fundamentally, this isn't, lots of people have written about this. I don't want to claim this is my idea, but this hasn't been done, like the thing it does in its second half hasn't been done in storytelling before to this extent. And the medium of video games really helps sell it. But by making her a three-dimensional character here, and by not fully selling the villainy, I can only imagine it's going to detract from the impact of that magic trick. Is a concern I'm starting to develop on this rewatch.
that's why I think it would have been cool for them to start with her as a typical 2D villain and just have the torture scene, right? Because then you're like, oh, she's just another bad guy, like, and they've just killed the main character. What the fuck is happening? But then you build up slowly to making that thing three-dimensional so that then it reframes it in your mind of like, oh, that actually makes sense now, rather than, I don't know. Maybe that's the magic trick you're talking about. I don't know, but I don't know how the show's going to deal with that.
I was just going to say one final point was just that that's what I feared about this season and like adapting the game, because the game is so unique in how it's presented. And I feared that it would end where it sounds like it ended. And I don't think that fundamentally works, but I guess we'll get deeper into that as we keep going.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead, Darth.
I was kind of finishing up the bit about Abby, because one of the things we had said is how much better it would have been without it being so overt about them like literally being there to kill Joel. And that was why the scene played out the way it did when Joel rescues her from the zombie horde, and you as the audience like immediately know that he is rescuing the person who's trying to kill him. And I think the entire reason that they played that out is because from that point on, I was fully expecting, okay, they are playing the switch. Now she is seeing, Joel has a good heart and he is trying to help a complete stranger. And now she is going to second guess, like, did he actually kill my dad? And that is why they played these scenes out the way they did, as opposed to what we had been saying, where she just shows up and like kind of kills him out of the blue. But then she doesn't, like, the fact that he saves her doesn't even register in her brain. It doesn't make her second guess anything. I don't even think she addresses it whatsoever. So after all of that, I'm like, now I don't like the way that played out. But at the time, I was thinking that's what the writers were attempting to do, was they were going to do like, a surprised J.J. Abrams twist where they got her to change her heart because Joel saved her life.
Yeah, but see, I feel like you could do that after she kills him, right? Where she sees the aftermath of what actually killing an important person does to other people. Rather than, yeah, like you say, the sort of J.J. Abrams, like, sudden change of heart moment. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I would think that what would have made Abby have that realization is that she doesn't lock eyes with Ellie. She doesn't clock Ellie as being there until she has fully killed Joel. Then she looks in Ellie's eyes and sees the daughter who just watched her dad get murdered, and then Abby is like, "Oh my gosh, I just did it to someone else." And that would be her heart turn right there.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that lots of these characters aren't very emotionally intelligent, because I don't know if she could come to that conclusion. I mean, maybe at some point. I'm not saying that's out of the realm of possibility, but just like in that moment, I don't think she would necessarily connect the dots.
No.
But I definitely see what you're saying.
The other complication here is like, a central thing in the story is that Abby lets Ellie live, right? That's like an active decision that she makes. And there is going to be a value judgment later on, presumably, of what Abby thinks Ellie has done with this.
Is it something to do with like the moral code of the Fireflies or something, where like if they don't have to hurt somebody, they don't, or something?
It could be.
Was there some of that baked in, or like what? I remember them.
I don't know. That's a good.
Because there was all this weird sort of dialogue about like, well, if we don't have to hurt somebody, we won't. But it's like, okay, but you're gonna kill Joel and torture him anyway, I guess, because blood begets blood or something. Am I misremembering that?
I don't think
like,
that's a thing.
Because
they straight up torture a Scar person later on.
Yeah, but that's the WLF, not the Fireflies.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
I don't know. I just remember them being all like, "What if we don't have to hurt somebody?" And then they like, "But we will torture and kill somebody." I don't know. Maybe that's intentional.
I feel like part of that is like the characters sort of being hesitant on Abby's plan. And that's what they're trying to illustrate. But I don't know if that's like directly linked to like the beliefs of the Fireflies. But
yeah, because
I wouldn't put it out of the realm.
There's a lot of hand-wringing about like we don't want to hurt anyone else. Like we're only going to go after Joel kind of thing by Abby's friends. Maybe that's what you're picking up on, Alex. But I also think that a fundamental ideology that WLF has, which I'm sure we'll get expanded on later, is like if someone hits you, you hit them back, right? That's like a fundamental and there's some pretty ugly politics in the way that Druckmann imagines this stuff, and we'll get to talking about that when we get to that part of the show, but that is also something that is like, I don't know how to best articulate this. It's like ideologically true in this world that if someone shoots you, you shoot them back. That is like a thing this world believes is true. in the way that it's been constructed, and this story is obviously challenging that. Part of it too, and again, I don't want to just be talking about the differences the whole time, but there is a really critical thing that changes here, which is how Joel is killed. And I saw a lot of people talking about this when the episode came out. So we have the big set piece
with the golf club.
With the golf club. So, Danielle, I don't know. Do you want to try and unpack this? Because I understand what people are saying, which is the method by which he's killed matters and the specific choreography matters. But I didn't walk away from that scene being like, oh, that hit differently than in the game necessarily. Like,
no, I would agree with that. I didn't walk away feeling it hit differently either. I will also add as a note that I admittedly don't know what you're talking about, and I don't know if I looked away from the screen like at the moment. Like, what's different about?
So, in the game, Abby beats Joel to death with the golf club. In the show, as she's beating him to death, the golf club breaks, and she takes the shaft of the golf club and stabs Joel through the neck.
I have a similar experience. I feel like I missed the golf club snapping. Am I crazy? Like,
I will admit I don't know if I said this while we were recording, but I was like watching this episode, like I finished it like 20 minutes before we were recording. So I was kind of like, I'd already seen the episode. I was kind of walking back and forth. So maybe that's why I missed it, admittedly.
I had a similar experience.
She breaks the golf club when she's torturing his leg, because she's hitting him in the shotgun wound instead of the face, which is again another change. And then, the head of the golf club snaps off, and she stabs him with the shaft.
Yeah, I missed that. Weird.
Okay, well, now that we have that detail, I don't feel like I don't think it feels any different. It's just another way to brutally kill him. Like, yeah.
I'm trying to. The specific argument seems to be that, in it not being an act of pure physical like violence, as in like her beating him to death, that it robs Abby of like it's another decision that's made in an attempt to like make these small concessions to make it not as bad as it could have been, in that it's a quick death. That when she's obviously she's torturing him, but like the actual death is quick,
right? But rather than like the slow beating of like a blunt instrument, it's just like a puncture that instantly cuts off the spinal cord or whatever, right?
Yeah. And so there's a similar argument. Exactly right. So there's a similar argument that it's yet another thing they're doing to soften some of the edges of...
Soften the blow. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I get. But then they do something that the game doesn't do, where you get to spend time with Ellie in the moment afterwards. Because she crawls over to Joel, and it is a deeply affecting scene. I don't want to...
I have just thought of the best ending for this episode. You cut before the final beat to the head, and all you get is audio, and there's just a beat, and then the cry from Ellie, and then that's it.
I mean, that's pretty much how the
game silence 5 seconds, and then credits roll. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
That's pretty close to the game as well, because Ellie gets knocked out just as you hear the beat, and then it cuts to black. So,
I just feel like that's the perfect ending for the episode. Like,
I just want to make a small note that you and Darth both have made comments tonight where you're like, I think this would be better. It's like, oh yeah, they did that in the game.
They did that, yeah. Multiple
times. That's so funny.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's how it was written originally.
Do you think it's just them trying to put their own spin on it as like a TV writer, or is it like a ratings thing? Like, what do you feel like is that coming from?
I think that they
instinctively, I think it's a medium thing.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at.
But to me, that just sounds like good drama that isn't necessarily tied to the mechanics of being a video game, right?
Yeah, but and it's difficult to talk about this without spoiling the structure of the thing, but the fact that you play as the characters on screen is like that mediates your experience of these scenes, right? Like truly the act of steering Ellie and then playing the game changes your relationship with the characters that Ellie's interacting with, because you're the one doing things on screen, and like when the violence occurs, it's you doing the violence, and then when there's violence done to you or to characters that you're interacting with, you're not in control of that violence. So I think the changes are necessary in some way because they need to try and sell you more on these characters not being irredeemable pieces of shit, because they don't have the benefit of you playing playing these characters. In the same way that The Last of Us Season 1 had to do a lot of work to try and make Joel seem more relatable, the game doesn't necessarily have to do that because you're playing as Joel the whole time, so you naturally develop an emotional attachment to that character. Same goes here, where they have to step back from, and these are the compromises they're making. They have to soften some of these edges because they don't have the benefit of you playing as Abby, or you playing as Ellie, or you playing as Joel, in whatever, however you want to think about that as being related to the medium, and a level of confidence is something you guys said earlier, of the trust in the audience, that the audience is going to get the thing this show is about. And they seem like they've lost a bit of that trust in grappling with this material, and I don't blame them. This is a really tricky story to, first of all, write and have work well, and then try and adapt from a medium that fundamentally utilizes that medium to make this story work. Like, the magic trick it doesn't work when it's not a video game, right? It is a piece of artwork deeply entrenched in the medium itself. And so I think it's decisions they've made because of the change in medium, and that the story has to necessarily have you relate to these characters without the benefit of, I've been playing as this person for 20 hours, That's kind of my feeling. And the changes they make aren't ones that I would have made. Like, it, you know what I mean? Like, it, yeah, I find it quite frustrating to think about.
I think what you just said is, like, so on point, and, like, completely, like, explains a lot of the decisions. It's just frustrating that some of the things we've been talking about, I feel like, are decisions that are sort of outside of that. But at the same time, like what you said, like, I completely agree, and it is fundamentally different, and that's why I think, to your point, it is so difficult to adapt this game in particular, because not just you're adapting a video game, and that's hard in itself, but you are adapting a game that I think is, for all its flaws, a very unique piece of media that I don't think I've ever played a game that quite challenged me the same way this game did.
Yeah, this game sits you down in a mirror and goes, hey, have you thought about the way that you see the world before? And if you're vigilant and attentive to the game, this is like a piece of artwork that, like, as much as I have gripes with it, I think this genuinely could change the way that you see the world. Like, it's that type of artwork if it thinks it's shot well. I remember finishing the game, and, like, the epilogue, whatever, I've complained about that before, but, like, you get to the end of that game and you go, like, holy shit, they really did the damn thing. And yeah, I am concerned that the change in medium means that is just not going to land the same way. And let me tell you, not to preview my thoughts too much on where this story goes, but the stuff that they've done with the scars and the WLF, like, I am really worried about this show's politics as it moves forward. Let me tell you. At one point, a character turns to screen and basically says, "But they did it first," and I'm like, "Bro, shut up." Anyway, you go, Darth. Sorry.
This has kind of been said or talked around about how a lot of these changes could be they're trying to get the audience to sympathize with characters, but a lot of these changes could also be because they're trying to make the show, they're trying to keep it like rated R instead of rated whatever the game might be that's above it. Because, for instance, Joel getting killed by the stab through the neck versus being beaten to death, like, is arguably more, like, you know, less gruesome, right? And so if I remember correctly, like, Ellie shows up after the club has been broken, like after the beating has been completed, and then Ellie shows up, gets knocked on the ground, she sees Joel like at death's door, and then Abby picks up the broken thing and then stabs Joel. So her not beating Joel to death, as in the game, is a mercy for Ellie from the audience's perspective. Right? If they had done it like it was in the game, then the audience would have had to experience, as Ellie, watching her dad get beaten to death in front of her. So that may have been perceived as being too traumatic for a general audience versus
See, I feel like that
maybe
robs...
It does.
Rob
It does.
Abby of the 3 dimensions, though, because, like, if she's willing to go that far and beat him into oblivion, like, that must mean that this killing is more meaningful than just killing a guy, right? Like, it must be
robs
emotionally traumatizing for her.
It robs the audience too, as well as the character. You know,
the vicarious robbing.
It's like assuming that like gamers are mentally unstable enough that it doesn't matter if they see a brutal beating. You know, it doesn't matter if the gamers see Joel beat to death. Like, they're already messed up. Or maybe it's like they're so strong they can take it, but the general audience, no, they can't take it. So we got to kill him quickly. I don't
it's
know.
That kind of hand-holding type thing.
I mean, I will also make a comment about the game that it many times, I think, crosses a line when it comes to the violence it depicts. And I think, like, as a general rule, video games, they do veer on the more violent side. And it is a problem in the industry that we can't be any more creative about our gameplay systems. But, like, yeah, the Last of Us Part 2 definitely crosses many lines, I think. And I still think it works. But it's one of those games where somebody says, I can't play this anymore. Like, I can't argue with them. Like, please don't play it anymore because it's upsetting.
Yeah.
Well, you could make the same argument about almost any media now, that people have lost the art of nuance. So, like, stuff just gets, like any love scene, like, it used to be just, like, looking into each other's eyes and just, like, a slight smile, and it would be enough. And now it has to be sexier than anything ever before, or it's, like, not worth showing to an audience. And action scenes have to be more than they ever were before, and everything just has to be more. And, of course, that now applies to gruesomeness as well. So, not just in video games, but in movies. There's some stuff that is just so gruesome. I'm like, why did you need to do that? I mean, and I'm jumping back to, like, the literal birth scene of watching a kid pop out of a woman in Station 11, and I'm like, okay, but did we need that? I don't know.
Yeah, whereas I think conversely in this scene, it's like, I think we did need that to carry the emotional weight of what Abby was going through, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And
we just didn't get that, I feel like. But yeah.
Well, it could have been just as powerful, as you said, like, just hearing her voice. Like, not even seeing what's happening to Joel. If you were just watching Ellie or just hearing her voice, like, there's ways to sell it without having to have that gruesomeness. And that's why I was saying
true.
that I think it's like a loss of the
Oh,
nuance.
yeah, okay. So rework the scene so you're just watching Ellie, you're not actually watching Abby. So you don't get to see anything about what happens to Joel.
But you hear
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But you hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
That's
can
sick.
see it through Ellie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, heck, even have his, like, blood splattered across the room and you see it landing on Ellie's face. Like,
Yeah, just...
you could go dark with it.
That'd be so good.
Darth once again
You're
does
just
a
making me
hat-trick
want
such
another
a-
episode of
what
the
if
same
this is
thing
more
now.
harrowing? The two things I want to I want to reinforce something Danielle said that I think is difficult to like overstate, which is the game reuses the trick of you have to shoot this person in the head to progress the story. It's not that literally, but it's that mechanic. It does that a lot, where it's like, hey, fucker, you're complicit in this. And it does it to the point where you're like, okay, I get it. Like, can we please stop doing this now? And yeah, there is a point. There's a particular moment where you have to press square to do a thing. And it's the point where I know a lot of people put the game down because they're like, why are we doing this? And I guess I struggle because media that is challenging in this way, I think, has value. And like, I think, you know, as media critics, we often have this tendency to go, bigger isn't better and nuance is really important. But also I think that in being big and bold and dark and ugly, this is swinging for something, or the game at least is swinging for something really specific. And in having to adapt this and like shave off some of those big swings and some of the edges, it becomes necessarily more generic and less focused. And I guess what I'd really like to see as the show goes on, in particular, like what they do with season 3, is like, can they reclaim that focus elsewhere, right? Can they fix some of the stuff with Abby later on? Can they refocus that epilogue? Like, there are so many opportunities in this show to improve on the original material and take it in different directions that aren't just let's make it more accessible and less nuanced and less focused, which it feels like that's what so far this season is sort of, I don't want to say like a family friendly version because it's by no means that, right? Obviously it's still an adult fucking show, but like it feels like a show that you would make for more people, right? It's a broader type of appeal than the game, I think. Where the game is like, people that like The Last of Us Part 2, there's about 20 of them, right? Like, there's not a lot of people that like that game. Whereas I think that this show is trying to be, it's trying to be different, and in doing so, I think, compromises the things I'm interested in about the second game. That being said, when Ellie... that you get to sit with Ellie and with Joel's body, that scene is like so emotionally devastating. When she crawls over to him, I thought that was just like brilliant acting. And like, I agree with you guys' notes about like where you would cut it and how you would resequence this and all that stuff. But what they gain from that moment, I think is a really good sell of where Ellie's feelings for Joel are when he dies, right? Like where she's at emotionally, that will drive her moving forward. I really think that that's such a keen addition, even if maybe overall it doesn't work so well as I would like it to. When she crawls over to his body, I was like, that is like, it's so emotionally devastating to have to sit in that moment with her, and realize this thing has happened. And the thing I kept thinking that I thought they were going to do was like, she's going to have to tell Dina what happened. We never see that on screen. But I was really hopeful that they might write that into the show of like her having to explain to Dina what happened. We don't get it, but it's implied.
This is a really weird pitch, but I kind of wish that like when Abby and them left the room, that she would have like, as one final like act, she would have like double tapped Joel in the head, because when Ellie crawls over to him, I fully expected to hear that like the gasp of air, and then she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're alive!" and like, "We gotta go get help from the town," but oh no, the town's under siege. We still gotta get you help, because he has survived so much. So we have seen so much in season 1 that he has survived, and I'm like, he could get through this. He could get through this. It was just a little stab in the neck. Like, he could live. So it was hard for me to fully get into the moment of sadness, because I was like, there's a chance, a tiny little chance he's alive.
Christ, you want to blow his fucking brains out with a shotgun, like you like eviscerate this man.
I just.
Oh man. Yeah. And that's kind of where the episode ends. You know, we get we kind of end with them going back to Jackson, and
Well, what's his name? Jesse shows up kind of out of nowhere and rescues them, which happens a couple times.
that's kind of Jesse's
Deus Ex
defining
Machinas
characteristic
throughout this.
I did have Deus Ex Machina in my notes as well. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
I mean, Jesse is a Deus Ex Machina, to be fair. That's him. That's him as a character. He just shows up and he's helpful. I love Jesse.
True. Yeah, me too.
Wow, I just realized it's always rescuing Dina. I just realized that he's always chasing her, trying to save her.
Yeah. Yeah, their relationship's weird, man. They do some stuff with that in this that I'm like, I don't know about that. The kind of final question I want to end on is, I guess, looking forward, you know, this is the big, and this is kind of why I structured it this way, with these first two episodes, because I think they make the most amount of like elemental changes to the source material, and that this is sort of the beginning of the story, and the next kind of set of episodes that we're going to be talking about through to the end of season 2 is really like one arc of a narrative. I guess I'm curious, you know, looking forward, what you guys are hoping for, or where your head's at with the rest of this show. Is there anything that you're hoping to see? And do you have a good sense for where the story's going? Like, I guess, where are we at as we sort of exit this episode and look toward the rest of the story?
I guess I'll just say that I fully expect them, and I'm saying this partially because I have seen episode 3, but that's it. I expect them to introduce concepts from Abby's story earlier in this season, and kind of, I guess, flesh them out a little more. But honestly, other than that, it feels like they're going to play it pretty safe and just stick to what Ellie's story is doing. That's what I'm guessing right now.
Okay. That's reasonable. You and I had talked when the trailer for this season first came out of like, what are they going to do with the timeline? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and how are they going to deal with that without the mediation of the gameplay? Like, are they going to blend? Yeah, there's a lot of questions there that I'm really curious to see how that ends up landing for you, Danielle, because yeah, I walked away from this season going, what is season 3 then? I'm curious if you end up in the same place.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Darth, Alex, what about you guys?
I kind of worry that they're gonna like just end up sort of flattening everything, and it just becomes another sort of zombie survival Walking Dead episode rather than its own unique thing, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, like, obviously, where do you go after killing one of your main characters? But also, like, it would be really easy for them to just kind of do the easy out. But yeah, hope for the best, expect the worst type situation, I think, from me.
Fair enough. Darth, where you at? Because you're kind of the most positive on this, I feel.
Yeah. I can't really speculate about the like season 2 because I like already know. But for season 3, I remember like when 2 ended, I was like, okay, I have no idea what they're doing now. I have no clue how season 3 is going to pick up, or where this is going to go. And part of me was even like, I'm not sure if I want to watch season 3 because it felt like such a divergence. But I guess that's also very speculatory.
That's the most, I like that Danielle's ears just perked up like mine did, because that exact feeling is the exact thing that you feel with the game.
Is this the pressing the square button type thing that you were alluding to before? Possibly?
No, different.
Okay, different thing. That's interesting.
Different, but
Similar.
also like, yeah, like you're not totally wrong in saying that, but different than like specifically what David was talking about.
Yeah, it's the magic trick, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't want to say anything yet till I finish this season, but I am so, if it does end like I'm thinking, I have so many thoughts, but I will save that until
Yeah. The next time, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I landed in a similar place. I'm honestly just really excited to talk about this because this is a bit like when this is a bit like when they forced Zack Snyder to remake Justice League. It was like one of the first times we had these two identical texts made by two different people that you could compare, and you could like, I thought it was like a really interesting exercise in like filmmaking and screenwriting, because you could compare these two. Like, we've never had artifacts like that before, where it's the same story, the same actors, but told in a different way. I feel like this TV show and the games are very similar in that regard, where it's very rare for us to get two people's vision of the same story with such resolution, right? Like, we've had adaptations and stuff before, but the resolution of Naughty Dog's in-house style that you know, by the end of the game ends up feeling more like a straitjacket than a you know, thing that they want to be doing. But it's very rare for us to get stories with such fidelity that we can compare and look at those individual choices and differences. And so I'm really, really excited to see what you guys end up thinking of this season of TV, because it follows logically that Craig Mazin has a vision for how to adapt this story. And it also follows logically that Neil Druckmann has an interesting view of the world that is inseparable from that second game. And if Druckmann's not writing on season 3, then Mazin is going to have to pick up that work and decide what to do with it, and how to change it, you know? Because I don't know what I would do
forgot about that.
Yeah, because he's busy working on their new game or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the part of the game that's the most Neil Druckmann of anything I've ever seen is going to be adapted by not Neil Druckmann.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what goes on behind the scenes. Like, I do wonder if there was like creative differences or something, or if it truly ended like peacefully and he just truly had to work on this game. But it will be very odd with him not being part of that.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what.
But,
especially knowing the content of, yeah. We could talk about this forever because I think it's endlessly fascinating, but knowing the content and the political imagining that Druckmann has, I would be not surprised at all if there were creative differences on what to change.
yeah.
And if Mazin was like, maybe there's good people on either side is insufficient politically. Like, that could have genuinely been the divide between them. I'm curious to see. So, yeah. Next episode, we are talking about the rest of season 2, basically. So, episodes 3 to 7. I've chopped it up that way because it's really one continuous story that I imagine will move through fairly quickly. That is everything I had. Danielle, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you on the internet? What have you got anything you want to plug? Anything you're coming up?
Well, you can find me. I'll plug my Blue Sky account. My username is just Level Story, and I post about anything I'm working on there. I'm not currently working on anything actively. Would like to get back to doing. I was working on doing Let's Plays earlier this year, so would like to get back into doing that. Just life has been busy, but you know. Thank you for having me on the show. Always a pleasure being here.
Go check it out. Danielle and I have been making stuff together for a long time now, so there's also a backlog of us talking about this series of games, as well as a bunch of other stuff, largely.
David.
Hmm?
No, I was just going to say, we met before I played The Last of Us. Like, wild.
Is that true?
Yeah, because we met when I put out the Firewatch issue of the magazine, and that was put out, I think, in April or May of 2019. I definitely had not played it then.
That's fucking wild.
It's wild.
Oh my god. That. Oh.
Crazy.
Oh my god. Okay.
I'm such a gamer now.
Yeah. Damn. That's insane to think about. That's really done something to my brain.
Lord.
I don't know how to process that. Yikes. Darth,
Yeah.
fix this. What do you got coming up? Well, I know what you got coming up. Tell the people.
I've got a big essay that I've been working on for a while. It's finally in editing, looking at the rise of the Empire in Star Wars and contrasting that with the fall of democracy in America, which is just a lovely, lovely topic for all of us to be living through. You can find me on YouTube.
It's a really light and breezy
DARTH.
essay, too.
Yeah, very, yeah, not at all
Not
sad.
harrowing at all.
There are multiple parts of the script. I was just like, okay, I can't even get through it without crying, so I'm just going to be crying while I'm delivering this this monologue.
There was
There
one
we go.
source that you had linked
Damn.
out, and I like started reading it, and I was like, I need to walk away from my computer. Like,
Yep.
anyway, so look forward to that. Darth on YouTube. We linked in the show notes. Keep an eye out for that. And yeah, go check out Darth's channel. Danielle alluded to it before, but we've got our full discussion of the Jedi Fallen Order game, a game with the worst title of all time. You can go check that out, as well as a bunch of other stuff. And hey, if you enjoyed this discussion and you're new here, we just did a full discussion of Station 11 as the seminal piece for our post-apocalypse unit. So go check out that discussion. It's one of the best things we ever made. So super proud of how that turned out. And if you like The Last of Us, I guarantee you'll like Station 11 because it's The Last of Us, but what if it was written by someone who had any hope in their heart for humanity? So yeah, it's a good alternative. Alex, you got anything you want to plug? Anything on the internet that you want to point people to?
Nothing I want to plug really. No, just maybe the next time in a lodge and I see someone with golf clubs, I'll walk the other way.
That's super fair. Yeah, that's it for the show. If you made it this far, you already know what it is. ZeroIndent.com for everything we do. Patreon.com/ZeroIndent to support us. As I said at the top, we've dropped our entry-level producer tier down to $5. That gets you access to the Zero Indent bonus episodes. Most recently, we talked about Hamlet with Eric and Darth. It was a really fun piece of coverage. It was nice to have another English major on the call because I was able to be like, hey, Eric, you explain this, which is always nice. So go check it out. It's a really fun discussion. Otherwise, you can find all of our merch at underink.press. That's where you can also find my books. If you're interested in the things we talk about and the way we talk about them, I guarantee you'll like the Maynard Triggs series. Go check it out. We appreciate the heck out of any support you can give us, and as always, wherever you consume this, on your podcast catcher of choice on YouTube, give us a 5-star review, leave a comment, like, subscribe. You already know what it is. That helps other people find the show, and it helps us get juiced up in the algorithm, which is the only way that this show keeps growing. That'll do it for this episode. Join us next time for our continued discussion of The Last of Us Season 2. And as always, it's just the end of the show. It's not the end of the world. Zero Indent is an independent publication dedicated to studying works of genre fiction, brought to you by our subscribers. Head to patreon.com/zeroindent to learn more and consider supporting us. Our theme song is The Swan by Alon Peretz. Our podcast cover art is by Crystal Hatay. Everything else is written, directed, and edited by me, DC McNeil. You can find our merch and books at underink.press and everything we do at zeroindent.com.